Yo, Atlas speaking, and welcome to part 5 of What If I Was Reincarnated into Naruto as the blind shinobi of the main branch Hyuga clan. Let the tale begin. Chapter 121, Ashura, fully committed to his battle against Juryoku, had resolved not to show any mercy. In the pursuit of victory, he unleashed the formidable wood release, Hote technique. Two colossal wooden hands emerged from the ground on opposing sides of Juryoku, moving inexorably closer. These mammoth hands, akin to the resounding clap of titanic palms, collided and interlocked their colossal wooden fingers, effectively entrapping Juryoku within their wooden grip. Juryoku, encapsulated within the grip of the wooden hands, contemplated. Ashura's strength is truly remarkable. This punch nearly matches the devastating force of Gamamura, who utilized all his might. This battle promises to be exhilarating. With a resounding shout, Juryoku released his gravity push. The result was explosive, causing both wooden hands, which had clasped together, to erupt with a resounding boom. Juryoku, however, stood unwavering, unscathed by the ensuing explosion. The onlookers stood in stunned disbelief, struggling to comprehend how Ashura, the son of the Sage of Six Paths, could wield wood release, similar to that of the revered first Hokage, Senju Hashirama. Tsunade turned toward Kurama, a hint of puzzlement in her voice, and inquired, "Ninetales, can you explain how Ashura, the son of the Sage of Six Paths, possesses the ability to use wood release?" Kurama, considering the question, responded, "He is the original user of wood release. If not him, then who else? In fact, I was equally astounded when I witnessed the first Hokage, Senju Hashirama, employing wood release." Tsunade's thoughts raced as she recalled a childhood tale she'd learned from Tobarama. Back then, she dismissed it as a fanciful myth. Now, however, the truth was undeniable. The Senju clan truly descended from the Sage of Six Paths, a revelation that left her deeply intrigued. The employment of wood release had certainly ignited a buzz among the observing ninjas. However, the commotion did not deter the intense battle between Ashura and Juryoku, which raged on. Juryoku, without hesitation, promptly imbued his sword with armament haki and unleashed Gravity Blade, Raging Tiger. A colossal black slash surged menacingly in the direction of Ashura. In response, Ashura swiftly employed wood release, Hobe technique, erecting a protective dome resembling a dragon's visage that enveloped him completely. Upon impact, Juryoku's Gravity Blade, Raging Tiger struck the wooden dragon dome, leaving a conspicuous sword mark etched upon the dragon's countenance. Ashura's decision to seek refuge within the dragon-shaped structure presented Juryoku with a tactical opportunity, one he was determined not to squander. In a blur, Juryoku vanished from his original location, shrouded in white lightning and an aura of white air, a clear indication of his activation of Swift Chakra mode. He reappeared directly before the wooden dome, his clenched fist cloaked in armament haki. Intermittent flashes of black lightning, while not true electricity, illuminated his hand, serving as a telltale sign of the conqueror's haki encompassing his powerful strike. Juryoku's mighty fist collided with the surface of the wooden dragon dome, yet on the exterior, there was no visible indication of an impact. As confusion began to cloud the onlookers' minds, a sudden and forceful expulsion sent Ashura hurtling through the air, propelling him away from the back of the wooden dome. While the bystanders remained puzzled by what had occurred inside the dome, Hayashi, with the aid of his Byakugan, managed to witness the events unfold. He explained the situation to the others, shedding light on the matter. Juryoku executed a technique reminiscent of our Hyuga clan's gentle fist. He maintained the external integrity of the structure but unleashed a powerful internal explosion. As Ashura, the son of Sage of Six Paths, was inside the wooden dome, he bore the brunt of Juryoku's attack. Ashura, sent tumbling through the air, collided with the ground several times before ultimately regaining his balance. However, the battle was far from over, and Juryoku was not about to let Ashura stabilize himself. As soon as Ashura managed to stand upright, Juryoku swiftly materialized before him and launched a punch. This time, though, Ashura's formidable chakra hand, emerging from his back, intercepted Juryoku's punch. Subsequently, 2 more chakra hands materialized from Ashura's back and delivered a series of powerful blows to Juryoku. However, having anticipated these strikes, Juryoku adeptly retreated, maintaining a safe distance from Ashura. Ashura, panting slightly after enduring Juryoku's powerful attack and sustaining injuries, relied on his remarkable regeneration ability to heal himself swiftly. It was a testament to his indomitable spirit and determination. Realizing that defeating Juryoku would be a formidable challenge, Ashura wasted no time. He unleashed Ashura, a colossal sphere encompassing 5 smaller spheres, and directed it towards his opponent. The immense energy within Ashura crackled and surged, ready to confront Juryoku head-on. Juryoku, ever the formidable adversary, responded with his own extraordinary technique, the Gravity Blade Slash. With a swift and practiced motion, he sent a massive sword slash hurtling towards Ashura. The battlefield quaked with the sheer power of their attacks. Chapter 122, When the Gravity Blade Slash met Ashura, a spectacular clash of titanic forces erupted. The formidable slash was only able to pierce the upper barrier of Ashura, which housed 5 potent spiraling chakra spheres. These orbs materialized in front of Juryoku, and continued moving in the direction of Juryoku. However, Juryoku's observation haki, future sight, had already foreseen this occurrence. In a calculated move, he employed gravity push to repel the spiraling chakra spheres. The energy spheres were sent hurtling backward, crashing into the ground with a thunderous impact, creating 5 colossal explosions. Ashura, his determination unshaken, knew that if the battle continued in this fashion, he might be the first to falter. The future of Mount Miyaboko hung in the balance, and he couldn't afford to fail. With unwavering resolve, Ashura decided to elevate his game, tapping into even greater power reserves. Ashura, sensing the urgency of the situation, quickly initiated his plan. He focused his chakra and extended his hand, causing the earth beneath him to stir with life as wood began to sprout and grow. Juryoku, with his keen instincts, immediately recognized Ashura's intent to create a formidable wooden human entity. This was a development he couldn't allow, and he swiftly moved towards Ashura with the intent to disrupt the jutsu. Aware of Juryoku's impending assault, Ashura took preemptive action. He encased himself within a protective chakra barrier, guarding against any impending attack. Meanwhile, 2 colossal wooden hands manifested around him, their size and power poised to strike at Juryoku. These mighty wooden appendages lunged at Juryoku with sweeping motions, presenting a daunting challenge for their opponent. Juryoku, a strategist of exceptional skill, knew that trying to slice through these formidable hands would be a fruitless endeavor, potentially wasting his precious time. Thinking swiftly, Juryoku made a calculated decision. With incredible agility and speed, he ascended into the skies, closing the distance between himself and Ashura. However, before he could reach his adversary, Ashura successfully executed the wood release, wood human technique. A colossal wooden humanoid figure, adorned with a fierce dragon coiled around its neck, had come to life. As Juryoku drew near, the wooden dragon acted with astounding swiftness, launching a ferocious assault on the oncoming threat. Juryoku, never one to be outdone, unleashed a powerful sword strike, enshrouded in armament haki to bolster its sharpness. This formidable strike, combined with Juryoku's control over gravity, cleaved the wooden dragon in half. The battlefield crackled with energy and tension as the 2 formidable combatants engaged in their fierce clash of abilities and strategies. Perched upon the colossal wooden human's head, Ashura harnessed his immense chakra. With a determined focus, he conjured a colossal, spiraling chakra sphere, its luminous energy crackling with power. With a fluid motion, Ashura hurled this potent sphere downwards, a blazing beacon of energy amidst the tumultuous battle. The wooden human's massive hand deftly intercepted the chakra sphere, clutching it with unyielding strength before thrusting it with great force in Juryoku's direction. Juryoku, a formidable adversary in his own right, countered with an awe-inspiring technique. He unleashed the Gravity Blade, Raging Tiger, a devastating manifestation of his power. The roaring blade collided with the spiraling chakra sphere held by the wooden human, and the resulting impact unleashed a cataclysmic explosion that reverberated through the battlefield, leaving all onlookers in awe. The devastation wrought by the clash of these two titanic forces horrified spectators. It was a testament to the overwhelming power of both Ashura and Juryoku. Despite many of their attacks being nullified due to their intense collisions, the destructive aftermath remained evident. When the chaos of their titanic confrontation finally subsided, a vast crater marred the battleground, marking the point where the wooden human had stood. Juryoku, breathing heavily after using a powerful gravity blade, Raging Tiger. Sensing Juryoku's vulnerability and unwilling to grant him a moment's respite, Ashura acted swiftly. He invoked Wood Release, Deep Forest Emergence, causing wood to spring forth from all directions with fervent determination. The sprawling forest of wood reached out, seeking to ensnare Juryoku. However, Juryoku's observation haki granted him the ability to anticipate the wooden assault, allowing him to deftly evade many of the entangling branches. Nevertheless, the sheer number of wood appendages proved overwhelming, compelling Juryoku to draw his sword and cut down a significant portion of the encroaching wooden menace. Faced with the formidable regenerative abilities of Ashura, Juryoku's mind raced with strategic considerations. If I continue this battle in the current fashion, it may drag on endlessly, and that's not what I desire. Besides, unleashing my Dimension Slash won't inflict the slightest harm on Ashura, given his swift regeneration capabilities. Even if he manages to evade the attack by the smallest margin, he'll heal instantly. My only recourse is to focus on restraining his wood release, he contemplated. With a resolute decision, Juryoku took immediate action. He channeled his formidable gravity manipulation ability over a vast radius, with his sword, encompassing an entire kilometer. The declaration of zero gravity rang out, and its effect was nothing short of astounding. Objects, including the area where Ashura had earlier unleashed his wood release, Deep Forest Emergence, began ascending into the sky. Even the towering wooden human, Ashura's creation, struggled to maintain its stability as it became increasingly unmoored. Ashura, quick-witted and determined, responded by securing the wooden human to the earth, reinforcing its connection with the ground, like roots of the tree. Through this agile maneuver, he managed to anchor the wooden human, preventing it from becoming a floating behemoth. Ashura had foreseen the potential havoc that Juryoku's gravity manipulation might wreak, and even he found it increasingly challenging to maintain his own balance on the ground. The very foundation of the battlefield seemed to tremble beneath the weight of their immense power. The Kages in attendance could only watch in awe and disbelief as they witnessed this awe-inspiring display. Juryoku's control over gravity had left them utterly speechless. They were acutely aware that even without employing his full capabilities, Juryoku possessed the means to wreak havoc upon their village. Their intuition proved accurate, for if Juryoku were to unleash his gravity manipulation at full potential, it would span a radius of over 10 kilometers, nearly encompassing an entire island's expanse. Chapter 123, Ashura expertly manipulated the wooden human, directing it to deliver a powerful punch squarely into Juryoku. In response, Juryoku swiftly swung his gleaming sword, unleashing a massive, devastating slash that severed the wooden hand of Ashura's creation. For the ensuing half-hour, an intense and relentless battle unfolded between Ashura and Juryoku. Their ferocious clashes left behind a trail of devastation, transforming the once pristine battleground into a chaotic landscape filled with numerous potholes and scattered debris. Astonishingly, both combatants emerged unscathed despite the prolonged engagement. In the midst of their unyielding combat, Ashura's extraordinary combat awareness emerged as a daunting challenge for Juryoku. Even Juryoku's observation haki, future sight, proved futile in the face of Ashura's ability to foresee Juryoku's attacks and respond with precise counters at the very last moment. This unexpected twist left Juryoku at a distinct disadvantage. Meanwhile, high above the battlefield, a breathtaking spectacle unfurled in the sky. Wood, stones, earth fragments, and trees converged, coalescing into a colossal sphere suspended midair. Onlookers observed this massive earth sphere with a mix of terror and disbelief, struggling to fathom the catastrophic consequences if it were to descend to the ground. Survival seemed nearly impossible, and it appeared that every Kage present would have to unleash their ultimate techniques to evade this impending catastrophe. With the immense Earth sphere ominously looming in the sky, Juryoku brought his widespread use of zero gravity to a halt and used his gravity-controlling ability for the colossal mass to ascend toward the Earth's atmosphere. This mesmerizing and unexpected turn of events left everyone in awe and confusion alike, as they grappled with the enigma of Juryoku's intentions. The baffling move perplexed every onlooker present. They couldn't discern the motive behind Juryoku's decision to send the Earth sphere soaring into the atmosphere. Ashura, too, found himself in a state of perplexity. However, he had an unwavering faith that Juryoku would never engage in unnecessary actions. There had to be a hidden purpose behind this unprecedented maneuver that remained veiled to Ashura. With this conviction in mind, Ashura continued his relentless assault on Juryoku. Now that Juryoku had dispelled the zero-gravity field, Ashura seized the opportunity to unleash his would-release abilities without hindrance and directed them at Juryoku. The prior use of zero-gravity had disrupted the effectiveness of Ashura's would-release techniques. The roots and branches that were previously at Juryoku's mercy were now untethered from gravity's influence. Ashura's resolve shone through as he conjured the formidable would-release, wood-dragon technique. 5 colossal wooden dragons emerged from the ground on his command and surged towards Juryoku. In response, Juryoku gracefully levitated into the air, his intentions becoming clearer by the moment. He initiated the gravity sword dance, conjuring a myriad of gravity-infused slashes that radiated outward. The clash between Ashura's formidable wooden dragons and Juryoku's gravitational onslaught was nothing short of spectacular. Each gravity-infused slash cleaved through the air, mercilessly intercepting and obliterating the incoming wooden dragons. Splintered fragments of wood rained down to the ground, each one a testament to the titanic clash between these two extraordinary warriors. Ashura, demonstrating his strategic prowess, seized the opportunity presented by the fallen wooden dragon fragments. From these remnants, thick vines began to sprout and rapidly extended in the direction of Juryoku, their aim being to ensnare and immobilize him. While Juryoku could not predict Ashura's every spontaneous move, he possessed the uncanny ability to foresee the movements of the wooden vines. With remarkable agility, Juryoku adeptly dodged their advances, evading capture, and subsequently cleaved the vines into pieces with precision strikes. As the struggle between the two warriors intensified, Juryoku could feel that the colossal Earth sphere he had propelled into the atmosphere had finally reached its intended destination. It was now ripe for employment as a potent weapon. Juryoku's face broke into a confident smile as he prepared for a potentially game-changing maneuver. He enveloped his sword in an aura of gravity, ready to unleash a devastating attack. However, to the bewilderment of everyone present, nothing occurred as he swung his sword. The absence of the usual cataclysmic sword slash left both allies and foes perplexed, the air tinged with uncertainty. In the midst of this enigma, Jiraiya's memory was triggered. He recalled a similar occurrence from their previous encounter in Konoha. Back then, Juryoku had swung his sword, and yet no sword slash had materialized. Instead, a colossal meteorite had descended from the atmosphere, hurtling toward Konoha. Meanwhile, Ashura's heightened senses alerted him to an impending threat. His instincts on high alert, he turned his gaze skyward, where he beheld an enormous meteorite hurtling towards him at breakneck speed. The ground quaked as the ominous projectile descended, setting the stage for an unprecedented and cataclysmic showdown between the two formidable combatants. "Juryoku," Ashura implored, a hint of concern etched in his voice, "do you realize the sheer magnitude of destruction this meteorite will unleash upon the Earth?" Juryoku, resolute and unyielding, responded to Ashura's apprehensions. In the realm of battles between the mighty, collateral damage is an inevitable consequence. Rest assured, I'm not committing any atrocity against humanity. This battleground is strategically situated far from any inhabited village. Moreover, I explicitly warned the onlookers earlier, offering them a choice to leave if they lack the strength or the resolve to witness our clash. Those who remain have proven their mettle and determination, willing to stake their lives on this spectacle. They do so of their own accord, and if they were to fall, it would be their own doing. I also have individuals here who are dear to me, and I guarantee their safety. Not a single scratch will mar them, be it from my attacks or those of my adversaries. Chapter 124, Ashura, dismayed by Juryoku's uncompromising stance, shook his head in consternation. Your lineage traces back to Uncle Hamura, but your attitude closely mirrors that of my elder brother. He, too, was indifferent to the consequences of his actions. I, on the other hand, cannot allow you to inflict harm upon countless innocent bystanders simply because they are here to witness our battle. As the tension escalated, Ashura's voice resonated with authority. With that said, he declared, it seems it's time to employ my full power. 6 dark orbs coalesced and began to revolve ominously behind Ashura, while a black rod materialized in his grasp. The gravity of the situation was not lost on Juryoku, and his countenance grew solemn, understanding that he, too, would need to access his utmost potential. In an attempt to safeguard the spectators, Ashura issued a final plea. I urge all of you present to retreat immediately. The battle that is about to unfold may have consequences beyond what you can fathom. Your safety is paramount, and I implore you to distance yourselves from the impending clash. Upon hearing Ashura's earnest plea, the onlookers at the battlefield wasted no time in making their decisions. Those who harbored doubts about their abilities and feared the specter of death opted to leave immediately. They weighed the value of witnessing a battle between 2 of the most formidable individuals against the very real risk to their lives, and the latter won out. The leading ninjas primarily consisted of individuals hailing from smaller villages, acutely aware of their vulnerability. On the other hand, the ninja from the major villages exhibited greater resolve, convinced they possessed the strength to endure the potential consequences of the impending clash. They did, however, exercise caution by creating a considerable buffer zone between themselves and the epicenter of the battle, ensuring their safety. Meanwhile, the meteor, a colossal, blazing harbinger of devastation, grew increasingly visible in the sky. In stark contrast to the meteor that Juryoku had unleashed upon Konoha in their prior encounter, this one hurtled earthward with unparalleled speed. The reason for its swiftness lay in the difference in Juryoku's approach. Previously, he had merely attracted the meteor and redirected it towards Konoha, liberating it from Earth's gravitational pull and guided it towards Konoha. In this instance, however, he maintained control over the meteorite, guiding it with astonishing velocity towards Ashura. Kakashi, a seasoned observer of battles and tactics, couldn't help but be astounded by Juryoku's calculating precision. His calculations are truly terrifying. Last time, when he targeted Konoha, he was well aware that the village lacked the means to halt the meteor. Deliberately slowing its descent allowed us to counter it. Not only that, but while we were countering the descent of the meteor, he had the time to deal with Danzo. Jiraiya concurred, his expression reflecting a deep understanding of his Juryoku's mind. Indeed, he possessed comprehensive knowledge of the strengths and vulnerabilities of everyone present in Konoha. I suspect that the primary reason he chose to unleash the meteor upon Konoha was to provoke Guy into employing the 8 inner gates. And we all know very well how much Guy loves Konoha, so he would have even given his life to protect Konoha. Juryoku's disregard for us was palpable. Guy was the only one Juryoku truly feared. Kakashi nodded after hearing this. I concur, Tsunade acknowledged, her voice filled with an admiring tone. Despite his outwardly reckless demeanor, every one of his moves is meticulously calculated. With bated breath, every onlooker fixed their gaze upon Ashura, awaiting the moment of his response. The anticipation was palpable as they yearned to witness the brilliance that would unfold encountering Juryoku's imminent assault. Ashura, standing at the center of this spectacle, began to take action. He brought his hands together in a solemn gesture and invoked his formidable technique, Sage Artwood Release, True Several Thousand Hands. The environment bore witness to the explosive growth of wooden appendages, their emergence marked by wild, surging growth. The colossal form taking shape dwarfed even the wooden human that Ashura had previously created using the wood release, wood human technique. Upon hearing Ashura's invocation, Juryoku's instincts kicked in, and he swiftly recognized Ashura's intended move, Sage Artwood Release, True Several Thousand Hands. Juryoku, determined not to allow Ashura to execute this technique, realized that in his present state, he was ill-prepared to face Ashura head-on. With a decisive move, Juryoku sheathed his sword and clasped his hands, initiating the gathering of natural chakra. This marked the commencement of his transformation into Sage mode. However, it was a process that demanded time and focus, a span of approximately 1 minute. As Ashura observed Juryoku's transition towards Sage mode through the heightened sensory perception of his Sage of Six Paths mode, he comprehended the imminent surge in Juryoku's power. Understanding the profound challenge that lay ahead, Ashura grappled with the realization that defeating Juryoku, once he had entered Sage mode, would be an even more daunting task. Amidst the escalating battle, 6 truth-seeking orbs floated ominously behind Ashura, each harboring immense power. However, he now deployed 2 of these orbs with a rapidity that defied the eye, directing them towards Juryoku. Remarkably, these orbs took on an unexpected transformation, assuming the appearance of 2 razor-sharp kunai, their dark forms contrasting against the backdrop of the impending clash. Chapter 125, Juryoku, honing his observation haki, future sight, detected the approaching truth-seeking orbs in his direction. Notably, these orbs did not resemble their usual spherical shape, instead manifesting as menacing kunai. With his enhanced perception, Juryoku anticipated the trajectory from which the kunai-like orbs would strike. Despite his understanding of their path, he made the deliberate choice not to alter his position. In a calculated move, he summoned his gravity push technique, assuming that these orbs would succumb to the same fate as numerous other attacks he had repelled with this power. However, the outcome defied Juryoku's expectations. The 2 truth-seeking orbs, kunai, halted momentarily in their trajectory, exhibiting a tenacity that set them apart from the typical attacks that fell victim to gravity push. A brief pause marked their resistance, but they pressed forward undeterred. A pensive thought crossed Juryoku's mind. It seems that my upcoming battle will indeed prove more challenging. These truth-seeking orbs appear to possess an unusual resilience against my gravity manipulation. With his gravity push ineffective against the truth-seeking orbs, Juryoku faced no alternative but to engage in a defensive strategy, evading the relentless assaults while simultaneously harnessing the power of natural chakra in preparation for what lay ahead. In the midst of the chaotic battle, a heart-pounding scene unfolded. Juryoku darted through the battlefield with the relentless truth-seeking orb hot on his heels. However, only the elite Kage-level ninjas possessed the keen eyesight and heightened perception to even catch a fleeting glimpse of this high-speed pursuit. Weaker ninja merely perceived hazy blurs that materialized sporadically, a mirage in the blink of an eye, usually when Juryoku momentarily decelerated or abruptly changed his course. On the flip side, as Juryoku raced for his life, the indomitable Ashura weaved intricate ninjutsu with unwavering focus. After what seemed like an eternity, a colossal entity emerged from the tapestry of chakra, its massive frame towering at over 500 meters in height, adorned with 1,000 colossal hands. Spectators and combatants alike, their hearts pounding, couldn't stifle their gasps of shock. This colossal creation was nothing short of a waking nightmare, a cataclysmic force that left the major ninja villages, except for Konoha, trembling in trepidation. The Kage leaders from various villages were left reeling, their thoughts wandering to the historical records handed down by their village's founders. They were all too familiar with the catastrophic potential of this jutsu, a power that had once kept them at bay, and the memory of Hashirama's unparalleled might now loomed large. Witnessing this colossal titan in the reality, the Kages comprehended the true extent of its destructive prowess. It became clear why Senju Hashirama, revered as the first Hokage, had effortlessly subdued and distributed 8 formidable-tailed beasts to other major villages, as if they were mere trinkets, each one like a piece of chicken in the hands of this colossal giant. The colossal meteor loomed a mere 100 meters away from the titanic figure wielding the formidable sage art would release, true several thousand hands. Ashura, his eyes locked on this meteor, swiftly mobilized nearly 500 hands, a force that stood as a mere half of the legendary jutsu's full might. With precision and unity, the wooden appendages surged forth, launching a coordinated assault from various directions upon the approaching meteor. Upon impact, the initial 200 hands clashed with the meteor, their valiant efforts met with the unrelenting might of the celestial object. The meteor, a seething testament to the immense kinetic energy accrued during its descent from the sky, boasted an intense heat, both internally and externally. Yet, the sheer force of these 200 wooden fists managed to quell much of the kinetic fury, leaving behind a towering structure of meteorite that moved at a reduced pace. However, the intense heat radiating from the meteor still mirrored the inferno of a raging volcano. The remaining 300 wooden hands, unwavering in their determination, continued their relentless assault upon the meteor until nothing remained but a cloud of dust, fragments of rock, and ashes scattered in all directions. The awe-inspiring spectacle of a colossal meteor's annihilation at the hands of hundreds of wooden appendages left all spectators dumbfounded. The wisdom of the astute ninja present here couldn't be overstated. They were acutely aware of the unfathomable devastation that would have been wrought had the meteor struck the earth. Yet, Ashura's timely intervention had transformed an impending catastrophe of unprecedented proportions into nothing more than a distant memory. "He is the son of the Sage of Six Paths, after all," murmured Inoki, his voice tinged with awe and respect. Kuratsuchi, the inquisitive one, turned to her grandfather with a question. "Grandpa, could you have defeated them both using your dust release?" Inoki's brow furrowed in contemplation. "Perhaps, but I am far from certain. Their incredible speed is a formidable challenge, and I can barely keep pace just watching them. Not to mention, I'm uncertain of the consequences of engaging with such formidable foes." Chapter 126. Not only Inoki held this concern, but all the Kages gathered here shared the same foreboding apprehension as Inoki. The mere thought of challenging Ashura or Juryoku to a one-on-one duel was too overwhelming to contemplate. Their collective confidence eroded to such an extent that they couldn't even envision the possibility of their combined ninja forces prevailing over Juryoku. After Ashura had completed the monumental task of destroying the menacing meteor, his focus shifted decisively towards the escaping Juryoku. Juryoku, who had been desperately evading the relentless pursuit of the truth-seeking ball while accumulating natural chakra, now faced an imminent confrontation with Ashura. In an instant, as Ashura's gaze locked onto Juryoku, the latter underwent a remarkable transition into the revered Sage Mode. With the onset of Sage Mode, Juryoku underwent a profound transformation. Most notably, his appearance underwent significant changes. The skin beneath his eyes took on a vibrant shade of green, and a distinct green hexagonal mark appeared on his forehead, signifying the initiation of this powerful state. As Ashura locked eyes with Juryoku, he immediately recognized the profound transformation that had taken hold of him, the manifestation of Sage Mode. However, it wasn't solely a visual observation that clued Ashura in. His heightened perception allowed him to sense the exquisite harmony between the natural chakra and the chakra residing within Juryoku. This perfect union indicated that Juryoku was not likely to lose his Sage Mode in the immediate future. He appeared poised to maintain this heightened state for an extended period. Ashura found himself unable to provide an exact prognosis regarding the duration of Juryoku's Sage Mode. To assess the extent of Juryoku's newfound strength, Ashura assumed control of the two truth-seeking balls, which had taken on the shape of razor-sharp kunai. With a skilled and practiced touch, he fused both truth-seeking balls into a single, imposing shuriken of considerable size. This massive shuriken, propelled at astonishing speed, raced toward Juryoku, who met it with an air of unshakable serenity. As Juryoku unsheathed his sword, it became evident that the blade was no ordinary weapon. It was imbued with the formidable power of armament haki. Juryoku's sword wasn't merely adorned with the formidable armament haki emission, it also bore the awe-inspiring Conqueror's haki. What's more, it was imbued with natural chakra, resulting in a triumvirate of potent enhancements. Empowered by these three formidable buffs, Juryoku wasted no time and unleashed a swift, dynamic swing towards the rapidly approaching truth-seeking ball, which had taken on the form of a menacing shuriken. Remarkably, this offensive maneuver unfolded in the blink of an eye, demonstrating Juryoku's remarkable prowess and swift decision-making. In the next instant, Juryoku's sword, bolstered by armament haki, emission and Conqueror's haki, made contact with the truth-seeking ball. Despite the slight gap between them, the collision generated a tremendous tumult, sending shockwaves rippling through the surroundings. The sheer force of their encounter left an imposing crater etched into the earth below. This clash between Juryoku's empowered sword and the truth-seeking ball was a brief but impactful exchange. Shortly thereafter, it became evident that the truth-seeking ball found itself at a distinct disadvantage, rapidly retreating under the overwhelming might of Juryoku's assault. In this thrilling face-off between Juryoku and the truth-seeking ball, Juryoku emerged as the undisputed victor, showcasing his mastery of these extraordinary powers. Ashura's response to witnessing Juryoku effortlessly repel the truth-seeking ball was one of surprise, though not astonishment. It fell well within his expectations, as had Juryoku failed to counter the truth-seeking ball even in his sage mode, it would have been truly remarkable. Following Juryoku's successful repulsion of the truth-seeking ball in the form of a shuriken, Ashura promptly regained control over the separated orbs, returning them to their original dual configuration. The two truth-seeking balls resumed their positions on Ashura's back, poised for the next strategic maneuver. Juryoku wasted no time in asserting his presence, reappearing directly in front of Ashura. This time, his speed had reached an entirely new level, surpassing even Ashura's ability to easily track his movements. Sensing the heightened level of danger, Ashura opted not to take any unnecessary risks. He assumed direct control over all the truth-seeking balls, weaving them into a protective, obsidian-hued sphere that enveloped his entire body. This black, spherical construct served as an impenetrable defensive barrier, fortifying Ashura against Juryoku's impending assault. Juryoku, with his sword now radiating a regal shade of purple, courtesy of the potent armament Haki, launched an aggressive assault on the formidable black sphere encasing Ashura. It was a spectacle to behold, an irresistible force meeting an unyielding defense. Nevertheless, Juryoku's sword possessed not only armament Haki but also a distinctive attribute. Above the blade, a shroud of natural chakra enveloped the weapon. This natural chakra possessed a unique potency that made it the sole effective countermeasure against the resilient truth-seeking ball. As Juryoku's sword made contact with the protective barrier formed by the truth-seeking ball, it left visible traces of its power, causing noticeable cracks to appear on the surface. Despite the formidable effort, Juryoku's assault fell short of completely breaching the defensive shield with a single strike. Just as Juryoku prepared to continue his relentless assault on the truth-seeking ball barrier, an unexpected interruption occurred. Multiple colossal wooden fists, summoned by the enormous wooden giant, materialized from various directions, converging upon Juryoku. Faced with this unforeseen and unrelenting attack, Juryoku had no choice but to swiftly strategize a retreat. Chapter 127. Just as Juryoku retreated, all the remaining hands of Sage Art would release. True, several thousand hands also started moving. As the area covered by these almost 500 hands was huge, Juryoku had no choice but to confront these hands. Of course, if Juryoku wants, he can run away, but his fighting spirit won't allow this. So, he was going to take the attack of Ashura head-on. Ashura, who was inside the largest sphere made of truth-seeking ball, finally, the large black sphere again turned into 6 small black truth-seeking ball spheres, and Ashura's figure was revealed back. Ashura controlled all of these truth-seeking ball, and it moved at an incredible speed towards the rear side of Juryoku so that Juryoku can't retreat and is forced to take all the punches of these giant wooden hands head-on. Till now, Juryoku was avoiding all the wooden hand punches, and he didn't immediately destroy them because even for him, it will take a considerable amount of strength to destroy each hand. After all, each of these hands' defense is as strong as that of a mountain, and the reason for this may be because Ashura was using Sage of 6 Path mode and can use Yang Release to make Wood Release even stronger. Juryoku sensed the impending threat as the truth-seeking ball approached from behind, while wooden hands rained down from above and in front, threatening to turn him into a meat paste. In this critical moment, he made the decision to unleash one of his most powerful moves. Coming to a sudden halt, Juryoku tapped his sword on the ground. As he stood still, the wooden hands closed in around him, and the truth-seeking ball drew dangerously close. Observers, perplexed by Juryoku's lack of response, began to speculate. Some wondered if he had finally surrendered to the overwhelming assault, while others questioned whether he had come to the realization that he couldn't withstand such a formidable attack. Ino, anxiously clasping her hands, could only hope for Juryoku's safety. However, amid the uncertainty and speculation, a sudden twist unfolded. A black hole materialized beneath Juryoku, with a diameter spanning almost 10 meters. Remarkably, Juryoku found himself suspended at the center of this cosmic vortex, defying the imminent threats that had surrounded him. As Nagato, Obito, Itachi, and Kisame witnessed the emergence of the black hole, memories of their past battles with Juryoku resurfaced in their minds. "Here comes that move again, the one that forced us to retreat. And look at the size of the black hole this time, it's much larger than before," remarked Pain. Kisame concurred with a nod, and Itachi added, "Last time, he struggled to control it properly. But now, he seems to handle it with ease." The onlookers, perplexed by the unfolding spectacle, soon had their questions answered. The onslaught of attacks on Juryoku slowed to a crawl, the sheer gravitational force making it difficult for them to reach him. Yet, this was just the beginning. The wooden hands, initially on the brink of striking Juryoku, began to disintegrate. Their remnants followed the orbit of the black hole, gradually being drawn inside. As the black hole exerted its influence, chaos ensued. Everything in the vicinity started being pulled toward the gravitational anomaly. Even the wooden hands that were initially distant from Juryoku accelerated toward the black hole at an astonishing speed. However, upon nearing the event horizon, they too succumbed to a deceleration and eventual disintegration, their particles absorbed by the black hole. The truth-seeking ball was not exempt from this gravitational force. Ashura, recognizing the impending danger, swiftly took control of the 6 orbs, redirecting them away from Juryoku and back towards himself. The fate of the truth-seeking ball hung in the balance, caught in the cosmic dance orchestrated by the formidable black hole. The gravitational force exerted by the black hole not only affected Ashura's attacks but also drew the onlookers towards its ominous center. Kakashi couldn't help but voice his thoughts. "If we're already feeling this pull from this distance, I shudder to think of the gravitational force at the center." Fukasaku, reflecting on the power displayed, added, "Just how formidable is Juryoku? If he unleashed such a devastating move upon our arrival, survival would have been questionable." Gamamura, the Toad Sage, interjected with a revelation, "You're correct. He aimed not only to defeat us but to force us to unleash our ultimate power, equivalent to the Sage of 6 Paths." As the onlookers grappled with the horrifying suction of the black hole, Ashura, on the other side, faced his own dilemma. Attempting to retrieve the truth-seeking balls, he was shocked to discover that 2 of them had already succumbed to the event horizon, beyond retrieval. Despite his efforts, the truth-seeking balls were disintegrating at a rate faster than he could pull them back. Realizing the inevitable, Ashura made a crucial decision. He chose to detonate the 2 truth-seeking balls that were beyond salvation. Chapter 128, The disintegrating truth-seeking balls, destined for absorption by the relentless black hole, trembled with an otherworldly energy as Ashura, with a heavy heart, made the fateful decision to detonate them. A deafening boom reverberated through the air as the explosive demise of the 2 orbs unfolded. In the midst of the impending chaos, the disintegrating spheres exhibited a mesmerizing dance of colors, each fragment pulsating with a spectral glow. The air crackled with an electric intensity as if the very fabric of reality strained against the impending explosion. Anticipating widespread devastation, Ashura was taken aback when an unexpected phenomenon transpired. The explosion, a cataclysmic event by any measure, played out in a bizarre slow-motion display, casting an eerie stillness upon the battlefield, as if time itself had come to a crawl within the menacing embrace of the black hole. Perplexed by the surreal scene, Tsunade turned to Hayashi, seeking answers. "What is happening right now?" Hayashi, his Byakugan activated, observed keenly and responded, "I don't have all the details, but from what I can see, these black spheres contain an immense amount of chakra. Even the detonation of one sphere could obliterate an entire small country. However, the current detonation is occurring in slow motion, specifically within the confines of the black hole region." Kakashi, with his Mangekyo Sharingan activated, concurred, "Lord Hyuga is spot on. The black hole is somehow impeding the speed of the blast from those 2 black spheres." Amidst the surreal spectacle, the characters' thoughts and emotions echoed in the charged atmosphere. As the explosive force breached the event horizon of the black hole, the blast's impact propagated at an astonishing speed, a velocity that would have been even more rapid if not for the gravitational suction from the black hole. A variety of emotions played across their faces: fear, awe, and a primal understanding of the imminent danger that lurked. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Tsunade urgently commanded, "Retreat immediately. The blast's range is expanding rapidly, and it could reach us." "Move!" Heeding Tsunade's orders, every Konoha ninja sprinted away in the opposite direction of the approaching blast. The ground beneath their feet vibrated with the impending doom, and the air crackled with the residual energy of the slowed-down explosion. Not only the Konoha ninjas but also every other ninja in the vicinity reacted swiftly, fleeing from the impending blast in a desperate bid to escape its destructive reach. The landscape itself seemed to protest, as if the very earth recoiled from the unleashed power. The sky, once serene, now bore witness to the unfolding chaos, dark clouds gathering in ominous acknowledgement of the impending cataclysm. The air was thick with tension as the group of nimble ninjas sprinted through the terrain, their muscles straining against the demanding 5-kilometer run at top speed. Each step reverberated with urgency, the pounding of their feet echoing in the vast expanse. The urgency was palpable, a desperate race against time to escape the imminent blast threatening to consume them. As they distanced themselves from the impending explosion, a shroud of uncertainty enveloped the battlefield. The once clear view became obscured, the chaotic aftermath rendering visibility nearly non-existent for the fleeing ninjas. Dust and debris filled the air, creating an eerie haze that clung to their senses. Yet, amidst the chaos, a mesmerizing spectacle unfolded. In the heart of the battlefield, a colossal black hole stood unaffected by the destructive blast that had swept through the surroundings. It seemed to defy the laws of nature, not only resisting annihilation but also greedily devouring the very explosion that sought to obliterate it. On the precarious perch atop a colossal giant, Ashura stood with a formidable shield in hand, its truth-seeking ball shaped like a shield. His eyes locked onto Juryoku, who valiantly resisted his relentless assault. The gravity of the situation hung heavy in the air, a silent exchange of power and determination. In the midst of the tumult, Ashura addressed Juryoku, his voice cutting through the chaos. "It seems that the black hole around you not only possesses a formidable suction power but also harbors an area where time is distorted. Am I correct?" Juryoku, standing resolute, met Ashura's gaze without uttering a word. Silence hung between them, charged with unspoken tension. "As you have already seen," Juryoku finally spoke, his voice steady, "I do not need to offer any explanation." A profound stillness settled over the battlefield as both warriors assessed the situation. Juryoku knew the limitations of his sage mode, a finite resource that would expire in half-hour. The impending reality weighed on him, the knowledge that Ashura, with his vast chakra reserves, could outlast him in the ensuing battle. Determined and aware of the stakes, Juryoku decided to unleash his full power in a single, decisive strike. The air crackled with anticipation as he prepared to give everything he had. Victory or defeat hung in the balance, and Juryoku understood that retreat was not an option. He faced the choice of triumph or an inevitable demise at the hands of Ashura. After Juryoku made the decision, ominous black lines began to snake across his body. It had been a while since he last tapped into the power of EAM, but now, driven by necessity, he unleashed it once more. With each passing moment, he found himself mastering the elusive sage mode. The black lines, upon reaching his eyes, underwent a mysterious transformation, changing their hue to a striking white. In this altered state, Juryoku appeared utterly otherworldly. Simultaneously, beneath him, a formidable black hole stirred to life, its gravitational force directed menacingly towards Ashura. As the black hole advanced, it left only devastation in its wake, sending shivers down the spines of onlookers even at a considerable distance. Within a 200-range radius, everything succumbed to the relentless pull of the black hole. Caught in a race against time, Ashura realized the futility of clinging to the sage art would release, through several thousand hands. The black hole, with its exceptional speed, outpaced even the formidable jutsu, forcing Ashura to reluctantly abandon it. Upon completing his transformation with EAM, Juryoku's aura vanished, signifying his absolute mastery and control over his newfound strength. The battlefield now lay in a precarious balance, with Juryoku standing as a formidable force, and the black hole looming as a harbinger of destruction. Chapter 129, The destructive force of the black hole upon encountering the formidable Sage Artwood release, true several thousand hands, was nothing short of catastrophic. The colossal wooden figure, once imposing and unyielding, crumbled and disintegrated under the immense power of the black hole. As Ashura witnessed the ominous union between the black hole and the Sage Artwood release, true several thousand hands, a profound realization dawned upon him. His attention wasn't fixated on the destruction of the wooden behemoth, instead, it was drawn to Juryoku, whose body was adorned with white lines, and his aura was now unnaturally confined. Despite outward appearances, Juryoku resembled a mere 18 or 19-year-old boy. Yet, Ashura's instincts screamed a warning, signaling that Juryoku had transformed into a force more perilous than ever before. Juryoku, fully committed to unleashing his potential, opened the ominous mystic eyes of death perception. As he decided to hold nothing back, a wave of uncertainty rippled through the atmosphere. "What kind of eyes are these?" muttered Ashura in awe. The sight of Juryoku's mystic eyes invoked an eerie feeling of staring into the abyss of death. Ashura, who was in the Sage of Six-Path mode, couldn't dismiss his instinctual unease. In the vacant space between Ashura and Juryoku, a confrontation unfolded. Seizing the opportunity to assess the transformed Juryoku, Ashura, controlling two truth-seeking ball, initiated an attack to gauge the extent of the transformation and discern the newfound power dwelling within Juryoku. As Juryoku observed the incoming truth-seeking balls, he noticed the ominous red lines adorning their surfaces, lines synonymous with impending doom. Reacting with remarkable agility, he moved at an astonishing speed, skillfully slashing his swords through the line of death on truth-seeking balls. Effortlessly passing through them, Juryoku positioned himself at a safe distance, turning his back to the seemingly undisturbed orbs. To the casual observer, the truth-seeking balls appeared unaffected, maintaining their stationary position. However, in a sudden and resounding boom, they exploded, unleashing a powerful force. The shockwave rippled through the air, creating a momentary chaos. Michikatsu, keenly observing the explosive aftermath, identified the telltale lines of death within the explosion. Swiftly, he swung his sword with precision, cutting through the very core of the blast. The same high-capacity explosion that had sent ninjas from different villages fleeing in fear a few minutes ago now dissipated into nothingness, as if the impending catastrophe had never happened. Upon witnessing Juryoku effortlessly annihilate the truth-seeking ball with finesse, an achievement deemed nearly impossible just moments before, Ashura's countenance shifted to one of solemn realization. The formidable challenge of defeating Juryoku became evident, prompting Ashura to resort to the potent six paths, Kunotsukumi. As Ashura invoked the technique, a colossal chakra figure reminiscent of Kurama emerged, boasting 2 heads and 6 hands. 3 of these hands cradled the potent truth-seeking balls, while the remaining 3 clutched the formidable Ashura. The imposing presence of the 6 paths, Kunotsukumi, was visible even to distant onlookers, casting a looming silhouette on the battlefield. As the creation of 6 paths, Kunotsukumi reached completion, Juryoku, with remarkable swiftness, closed the gap between them. Unhesitant, Ashura launched an offensive using the Ashura. However, Juryoku exhibited extraordinary precision, severing the lines of death on each Ashura without a hint of sound. Unlike the explosive aftermath of the truth-seeking balls, these manifestations vanished without a trace. Juryoku's mastery of his mystic eyes of death perception extended beyond the Ashura to the formidable 6 paths, Kunotsukumi itself. Without a moment's hesitation, he discerned multiple lines of death intricately woven into the chakra figure. Swift as lightning, Juryoku maneuvered with unparalleled speed, executing precise cuts at the exact locations where the lines of death marred the 6 paths, Kunotsukumi. The battlefield bore witness to the intense exchange, with Ashura grappling with the realization that Juryoku's abilities transcended expectations. As the parts of the 6 paths, Kunotsukumi dissipated, the confrontation escalated into a battle of wits and mastery over supernatural forces. In the aftermath, the result unfolded swiftly. More than half of the imposing 6 paths Konotsukami figure crumbled before Ashura could muster a response. Acknowledging the undeniable discrepancy in speed, with Juryoku surpassing him by leaps and bounds, Ashura recognized the need to employ a different strategy. Faced with Juryoku's formidable agility, he resolved to leverage sheer quantity as a means to overwhelm his adversary. Embracing this tactical shift, the remaining half of the 6 paths, Konotsukami sprouted numerous chakra-infused hands, numbering in the thousands. While modest in size, each hand packed a punch comparable to Tsunade's formidable strength. Despite their formidable might, Juryoku, enveloped in the EAM, effortlessly evaded and dispatched these chakra hands with a casual ease that belied the effortlessness of a routine task. His sword slices, akin to cutting through vegetables, severed the hands with precision, exploiting the advantage of cutting the lines of death woven into each appendage. The colossal form of 6 paths, Konotsukami diminished at an alarming rate, with Ashura's attempts to reconstruct its destroyed parts proving futile. As Ashura tirelessly recreated hands and other components, Juryoku systematically dismantled them at a speed that even challenged Ashura's keen perception. In the relentless onslaught, every chakra hand slain by Juryoku translated to a burning of Ashura's chakra, akin to the rapid consumption of fuel. The maintenance of 6 paths, Konotsukami transformed into a precarious balance, akin to burning a candle at both ends, where the voracious flames of Juryoku's onslaught threatened to exhaust Ashura's chakra reservoir at an unprecedented pace. Chapter 130. If this relentless assault persists, defeat seems inevitable. The rate at which my chakra is depleting is unsustainable, and unless I alter this course, my demise is certain, contemplated Ashura. Surviving within the diminishing confines of 6 paths, Konotsukami, he managed to evade Juryoku's onslaught by constantly shifting his position. The strategic maneuvering was vital. Had he remained static, Juryoku would have undoubtedly closed in on him by now. Realizing the urgency in Juryoku's movements, Ashura discerned a potential weakness. Perhaps, Juryoku's relentless assaults stemmed from the toll of a technique that exacted a physical price on his body. With this insight, Ashura opted for a shrewd approach. Abandoning the continuous reconstruction of 6 paths, Konotsukami, he resolved to harness the remaining chakra within the construct. Observing Juryoku's intense combat urgency, Ashura surmised that wasting Juryoku's time became a strategic advantage. Rather than rebuilding the colossal figure, Ashura redirected the latent chakra within 6 paths, Konotsukami, for a targeted assault on Juryoku. The controlled release of the remaining chakra became a calculated effort to exploit Juryoku's urgency, attempting to divert his attention and stall his advances. Ashura, recognizing the importance of strategic thinking amidst the chaos, sought to turn the tide of the battle by outsmarting his formidable opponent. As Ashura keenly observed Juryoku's movements, he astutely discerned a vulnerability in his formidable opponent. On the flip side, Juryoku himself was acutely aware of the limitations imposed by the combination of mystic eyes of death perception and the EAM. He understood the imperative need to conclude the battle swiftly, recognizing that without the aid of Sage Mode and EAM, sustaining the use of mystic eyes of death perception for an extended period would be an insurmountable challenge. The temporal boundaries of EAM and mystic eyes of death perception were both confined to a 5-minute window. Just as Ashura strategized to utilize the remaining chakra to impede Juryoku's advances, employing the chakra-manifested hands of 6 paths, Konotsukami, for targeted attacks, Juryoku persisted in his assault. However, a sudden appearance of a long line of death on 6 paths, Konotsukami, altered the dynamics of the battle. Sensing an opportune moment, Juryoku wasted no time. With unparalleled speed, he sliced through the line of death, simultaneously repelling any chakra-infused hand that sought to assail him, thanks to his concentrated gravity repulsions. The diagonal line of death, etched onto 6 paths, Konotsukami, proved to be the vulnerable point, leading to the destruction of the remaining quarter of the colossal construct. Witnessing this unexpected turn of events, Ashura found himself in a state of shock. The destruction of the remaining 6 paths, Konotsukami, exceeded his expectations, leaving him grappling with the reality that Juryoku's prowess surpassed even his most cautious estimations. As Juryoku gracefully descended to the ground, finding himself face to face with Ashura, every passing second became a precious commodity. Driven by the urgency to conclude the battle swiftly, Juryoku refrained from engaging in verbal exchanges with Ashura. Instead, he seamlessly executed precise movements, reappearing in front of Ashura in the blink of an eye. While Ashura's movements were comparatively slower, he responded with tactical acumen. Swiftly harnessing the power of the truth-seeking ball, Ashura erected a defensive shield before him. Juryoku, discerning the imminent threat, observed the shield constructed from truth-seeking ball with a keen eye. Multiple lines of death adorned the shield, presenting a formidable obstacle. Undeterred, Juryoku unleashed a flurry of precise slashes, severing the lines of death with swift and continuous movements. In a matter of seconds, the shield, a product of truth-seeking ball, succumbed to Juryoku's onslaught. Just as the shield neared its demise, threatening to erupt into a resounding boom, Juryoku intervened with unyielding precision. Cutting the lines of death associated with the impending explosion, he rendered the explosive force inert. The anticipated explosion halted abruptly, dissipating into nothingness. Juryoku's deft manipulation of the lines of death showcased not only his extraordinary combat prowess but also his ability to neutralize threats with surgical precision. While Juryoku was engrossed in countering the truth-seeking ball shield, Ashura seized the opportunity to step back, creating a deliberate distance between himself and his formidable adversary. However, Juryoku, relentless and refusing to afford Ashura even the slightest respite, swiftly closed the gap and launched another attack. The clash between Juryoku's sword and Ashura's rod, constructed from the same chakra as the truth-seeking ball, resonated with an intense collision. The collision was so forceful that it created a huge crater. Had Juryoku's sword not been enveloped in both armament haki and gravity, it would have succumbed to complete destruction upon contact with Ashura's rod. After all, Ashura's rod is made of truth-seeking ball. Following the impact, Juryoku strategically retreated, leaving Ashura momentarily bewildered by the sudden withdrawal. As Ashura grappled with the confusion, his rod pulsated with a formidable energy, signaling an impending explosion akin to the fate that befell his remaining truth-seeking balls. Realizing the imminent danger, Ashura promptly discarded the rod and sprinted backward with incredible speed. True to expectations, the explosion erupted, but Juryoku, unfazed, swung his sword with swift precision, cutting the lines of death associated with the explosion. The detonation ceased abruptly under Juryoku's adept control. Now disarmed and devoid of a defense comparable to the impervious truth-seeking ball, Ashura found himself vulnerable. Juryoku, having thwarted the explosive threat, recognized the opportune moment to exploit Ashura's defenselessness. With a lethal advantage at his disposal, Juryoku set his sights on a strategic move that would potentially kill Ashura now. Chapter 131, Juryoku, with his mystic eyes of death perception, could discern only 3 lines of death on Ashura. A stark contrast emerged when considering an average ninja, where Sasori, for instance, bore more than 8 lines of death. Ashura, however, presented merely 3 lines, further complicated by his regenerative abilities. Even after severing these lines, Juryoku harbored uncertainty about Ashura's demise. Determined to ascertain the outcome, Juryoku pondered, whatever the case may be, I'll discover the truth upon cutting the lines of death on his body. Without hesitation, he propelled himself forward with incredible speed, materializing in front of Ashura to launch a swift attack. In response, Ashura conjured a wooden sword, infusing it with chakra, and deftly parried Juryoku's assault. However, the vast difference in physical strength favored Juryoku, who effortlessly repelled Ashura, showcasing his dominance in the clash. As Juryoku launched another assault on Ashura, the latter once again skillfully parried the attack with his wooden sword. However, this time, Juryoku, with the keen sight of his mystic eyes of death perception, directly targeted the line of death on the wooden sword. In an instant, the once solid weapon disintegrated into dust, leaving Ashura momentarily defenseless. Without pausing, Juryoku pressed on with his relentless attack, targeting Ashura's shoulder with precision. In a calculated move, Juryoku severed the visible line of death on Ashura's shoulder. Anticipating the onslaught, Ashura had braced himself for the impact and managed to evade the full force of the strike. Despite his defensive efforts, a shallow cut on his shoulder served as a testament to Juryoku's relentless skill. While assessing the injury, Ashura contemplated the escalating difficulty of the battle. He mused, surviving against Juryoku is proving increasingly challenging. I find myself barely clinging to defense. Yet, amid these thoughts, a horrifying development unfolded. The very spot on his shoulder that had suffered the shallow cut now witnessed a rapid decay. Ashura watched in horror as his entire hand succumbed to the relentless decay, turning into dust that fell to the ground. The unexpected turn of events heightened the stakes of the confrontation, forcing Ashura to confront the grim reality of his adversary's formidable abilities. In the aftermath of the startling event, Ashura grappled with shock and horror. However, he swiftly recognized the pressing need to maintain his composure, understanding that any moment of hesitation could result in dire consequences. The urgency to adapt to Juryoku's relentless assault propelled Ashura forward. Summoning his resolve, Ashura's remaining hand transformed into multiple wooden thorns, launching a counterattack against Juryoku. With a deft swing of his sword, Juryoku effortlessly dismantled the wooden onslaught. Meanwhile, Ashura, strategically retreating, contemplated the unfolding situation. Amid the exchange, a realization struck Ashura. He muttered, "I initially believed Juryoku's abilities were limited to ninjutsu, but I was gravely mistaken. His powers extend to the human body as well." The shallow cut on my shoulder, which I expected to heal instantly due to my regeneration abilities, instead resulted in my hand decaying and turning to dust. It felt as if my hand had died. Fortunately, my regeneration abilities saved me, preventing the loss of my arm and the subsequent decrease in combat capability. As Ashura reflected on the broader implications of Juryoku's powers, the confrontation took on a new level of complexity, and the need for strategic adaptation became more apparent than ever. As Ashura strategically retreated, Juryoku deftly dealt with the wooden thorns and promptly launched another attack. Unfazed, Ashura, whose regenerated hand had regained its former state, acted without hesitation, invoking the formidable wood-style, deep forest emergence. Towering trees sprouted from the ground, advancing towards Juryoku with menacing intent. As Juryoku observed the approaching wooden onslaught, he understood that he had the capability to swiftly cut through the trees and clear his path. However, he also recognized the tactical disadvantage of doing so. Ashura would capitalize on the opportunity to create distance, impeding Juryoku's pursuit. Aware of the urgency to eliminate Ashura swiftly, Juryoku opted for a different strategy. In his hand, a colossal Rasengan took shape, and with a sudden gathering of wind and lightning, the Rasengan transformed into a large shuriken-like structure. This powerful move, named Swift Release, Rasen Shuriken, exemplified Juryoku's ability to control the elements. With a swift throw, the Rasen Shuriken tore through the air, obliterating any obstacles in its path, including the advancing wooden trees. The calculated precision of Juryoku's technique ensured an unobstructed path, emphasizing the need for swift and efficient maneuvers in the ongoing confrontation. In a swift motion, Juryoku materialized in front of Ashura, who, at this juncture, showed clear signs of exhaustion, panting heavily as he had expended a significant portion of his chakra reserve. Undeterred, Juryoku launched another assault without hesitation. Anticipating the attack, Ashura fortified his fist with chakra and retaliated. Despite Ashura's preparedness, Juryoku effortlessly evaded the incoming strike and, with unparalleled speed, reappeared behind Ashura. A discerning observer might notice a subtle detail: the tip of Juryoku's sword was now stained with blood, hinting at the precision and effectiveness of his recent maneuver. Ashura's gaze shifted downward, revealing a shallow cut etched across his stomach. Turning toward Juryoku, he acknowledged, "It seems that you've emerged victorious." Ashura's lower body, mirroring the decay that had befallen his hand earlier, began to turn gray. Collapsing to the ground, it became evident that Ashura's fate was sealed. In the aftermath of the fall, the prospect of Ashura rising again seemed bleak, a reality not lost on Juryoku, who, far from being oblivious, would not grant his fallen opponent another chance. As Ashura lay on the ground, Juryoku, breaking his silence after entering the EAM, remarked, "Indeed, it appears that victory is mine." This battle wasn't yours to begin with, yet you insisted on facing me. The acknowledgement echoed in the stillness, marking the conclusion of a fierce and decisive confrontation. Chapter 132. Despite Ashura's lower body decaying into dust, his regenerative abilities promptly kicked in, initiating the process of regrowth. However, Juryoku, resolute in preventing Ashura's recovery, swiftly intervened once more. Cutting a decisive line of death that materialized on Ashura's waist, Juryoku arrested the regenerative process, causing the newly formed body part to succumb to decay and transform into gray dust. Give up. I don't want to slash you continuously like some maniac. Just surrender and return to the Pure Land where you belong, urged Juryoku, his tone echoing a sense of finality. Defiance echoed in Ashura's response, I cannot give up. I've made a promise to protect Mount Maiboku. Ashura's declaration marked a renewed determination to persist in the face of adversity. Following his words, both of Ashura's hands underwent a transformation, morphing into countless wooden vines that surged forward at incredible speed, aiming to ensnare Juryoku. Juryoku, astute and unfazed, easily discerned the impending attack. Swiftly cutting two lines of death, one on his shoulder and another on his chest, Juryoku neutralized the wooden vines before they could reach him. As the wooden vines approached Juryoku's face, they underwent a swift transformation, turning gray and ultimately disintegrating into dust. The relentless assault left Ashura with only his head remaining. Gradually, the rest of his body followed suit, succumbing to the same fate, turning gray and then disintegrating into dust. With the complete dissolution of his physical form, Ashura's ability to regenerate was irrevocably lost. Now reduced to only his head, Ashura's final moments were imminent. Juryoku, discerning a line of death manifesting on Ashura's head, recognized the gravity of the situation. This particular line, if severed, would result in Ashura's eternal demise, ensuring that his soul would never return to the Pure Land. Without hesitation, Juryoku swiftly cut the line of death on Ashura's head. As the head turned gray and began the inevitable transformation into dust, Ashura's voice resonated with a sense of regret. I'm sorry, I couldn't say. Though Ashura's sentence remained unfinished, the unspoken words conveyed a profound apology. Juryoku, attuned to Ashura's sentiments, understood that Ashura sought forgiveness for his inability to save Mount Maiboku and the toads dwelling within it. The poignant moment marked the conclusion of a formidable battle, leading Juryoku to reflect on the gravity of the sacrifices made in the pursuit of one's duty. As Ashura's entire body dissolved into dust, the aftermath of utilizing the enhanced agility mode, EAM, took its toll on Juryoku. The once prominent white lines covering his body began to fade, compelling him to exit the Sage mode. Kneeling on the ground, Juryoku sought support from his sword, visibly fatigued and panting heavily. Succumbing to the effects, he closed his eyes, as the strain made it impossible to maintain his mystic eyes of death perception any longer. In this weakened state, Juryoku struggled to uphold his observation haki. Despite the temporary frailty, he found solace in the knowledge that this weakness would be momentary. Within a few minutes, he anticipated a recovery, although not back to his peak condition, ensuring he would be less vulnerable to potential attacks. Even in his weakened state, Juryoku remained a formidable force. The black hole he had created persisted, under his mental control, ready to defy any threat. Juryoku had strategized his departure after regaining sufficient strength, but as fate would have it, not everything unfolded according to his plans. He appears to be weakened now, the perfect opportunity to strike, Obito remarked, assessing Juryoku's current state. Conan, cautious about underestimating their opponent, questioned, Are you certain? Even in his weakened state, he might still surpass us. Obito, undeterred, instructed Pain and the others, distract him for me. Deidara, seizing the chance to showcase his art, declared, I'll make him understand the true meaning of art. With that, he conjured a C2 dragon and mounted it, soaring towards Juryoku. As Deidara closed in, the unexpected happened. The intense gravitational force, a lingering effect of Juryoku's abilities, forced the C2 dragon to land abruptly, rendering it unable to sustain flight. Simultaneously, spectators who had retreated from the earlier intense clash between Ashura and Juryoku began returning, having witnessed the conclusion of that fierce battle with Ashura's demise. However, the scene unfolding before them was startling. The Akatsuki, long considered a formidable force, was now launching an assault on Juryoku. This unexpected turn of events elicited mixed reactions among the onlookers. While some were taken aback, others, aware of Juryoku's potential threat, found a sense of satisfaction in witnessing his vulnerability. The battlefield, once the site of a one-on-one duel, now became a stage for an unforeseen confrontation with the Akatsuki. Utilizing his Kamui ability, Obito materialized behind Juryoku, who remained acutely aware of the impending Akatsuki attack. Without hesitation, Obito activated Kamui, drawing Juryoku into the extra-dimensional space. Surprisingly, Juryoku offered no resistance and allowed himself to be pulled into the Kamui realm. Obito, along with the other members of Akatsuki, was left dumbfounded by Juryoku's lack of resistance. It was perplexing. Even in his weakened state, Juryoku should have possessed the capacity to resist such an attempt. The Akatsuki members struggled to comprehend why Juryoku, despite his formidable abilities, chose not to resist. Throughout the process, Juryoku maintained a lowered head, seemingly focused on recuperating his stamina, displaying an unexpected and enigmatic surrender. The unfolding events left the Akatsuki in a state of confusion and curiosity, pondering the motives behind Juryoku's unconventional response. Chapter 133, Pain arrived in front of Obito and asked, "Was that really Juryoku?" "Yes, who else he might be. I also don't understand why he really didn't resist, but one thing is for sure, that if he thinks that he can come out from my dimension, then he is surely mistaken. Let's see for how long can he survive in the Kamui dimension," said Obito. Pain nodded, and just at this moment Deidara also arrived and said, "Damn it, I wasn't able to show my art just because of this stupid gravity." Every member nodded after hearing the word of Deidara, and they all looked at the large black hole hovering in the air, because even if they are standing here they can feel a huge amount of suction coming from the black hole. They can't even imagine what will happen with them if they got near the black hole. "Let's depart before the ninjas from the major villages arrive," suggested Pain. "Other major villages might not act against us, but Konoha and Suna will undoubtedly take action if we linger here," added Itachi. Following this discussion, the Akatsuki members swiftly employed the body flicker technique to vanish from the scene. As they left, Tsunade and the other onlookers, including Sasuke, arrived, witnessing the departure of the notorious organization. Tsunade, prepared to command an attack, found herself compelled to relinquish the pursuit as the Akatsuki members disappeared. Notably, before leaving, Itachi cast a glance in Sasuke's direction. Though no words were spoken aloud, Itachi's subtle movement of the lips conveyed a message that Sasuke comprehended well: "I am waiting." With an unwavering gaze, Sasuke affirmed, "I will undoubtedly come for you." His Sharingan, a testament to his keen perception, allowed him to discern the direction in which Itachi departed, intensifying the anticipation of their inevitable confrontation. Within the confines of the Kamui space, Juryoku reflected, "I couldn't have found a better and safer place to rest. I should thank Obito for his efforts." Feeling the resurgence of his strength, Juryoku declared, "I have almost recovered. It's time to leave." From his outstretched hand, a black hole began to take shape, spanning about a meter in diameter. As the black hole solidified, Juryoku proclaimed, "Just you wait, Akatsuki. I'm coming." With these words, he confidently stepped into the swirling abyss of the black hole, leaving the Kamui space behind. The ominous promise lingered, signaling the impending return of Juryoku, setting the stage for future confrontations with the Akatsuki. Today was indeed a remarkable day for us. Not only did we witness a monumental battle, but we also successfully eliminated one of our most formidable adversaries, someone who could have posed a significant threat to our future plans. While I would have relished the opportunity to engage in combat with them, the truth is, compared to their prowess, I am nothing more than an insignificant ant, remarked Kisame. Pain interjected, urging, "Let's refrain from lingering here. We must depart before the sensory ninjas detect our presence." With unanimous agreement, the group prepared to leave. However, as they were about to make their exit, a sudden commotion caught their attention from behind. Turning to investigate, they were met with a truly mesmerizing sight. The black hole that loomed behind them transformed into a white hole, an unexpected and enchanting phenomenon that added an intriguing twist to the unfolding events. Upon witnessing the emergence of the white hole, confusion enveloped most of the spectators, including Obito, who found himself equally perplexed. Intuitively, Obito turned his attention to his Kamui space, discovering that Juryoku was nowhere to be found. "All of you, we're leaving this place right now." "Do not resist," Obito commanded. Pain, still bewildered, inquired, "What happened?" "Juryoku has left the Kamui space." "This must be his doing," Obito replied, indicating the white hole as evidence. Having confirmed Juryoku's departure, Obito swiftly utilized Kamui, drawing each member of the Akatsuki into the extra-dimensional space. Obito remained vigilant, ensuring Juryoku was truly absent from the Kamui space, ready to use the technique at a moment's notice. From the white hole, Juryoku floated out, and as Obito observed this, he verified that Juryoku had indeed exited the Kamui space. Without hesitation, Obito activated Kamui and departed. Upon Juryoku's appearance, a collective sense of surprise swept through the onlookers. Their gaze shifted in unison towards the toads, eager to witness the unfolding events. The toads, too, wore solemn expressions, acknowledging the gravity of the situation. Juryoku, having emerged, perceived the presence of everyone but the Akatsuki. Observing the scene, he remarked, "It seems they have escaped, but I need not worry, I have another black hole in the Kamui space." "Now, you toads should also make your way," Juryoku instructed. As his words resonated, the white hole behind him transformed once more, this time into a black hole. With remarkable speed, it advanced towards the toads present. Chapter 134. As the imposing black hole advanced in their direction, the expressions on the faces of the toads from Mount Maiboku underwent a stark transformation. A collective realization dawned upon them: they had no chance of surviving against this formidable force. The same black hole had rendered someone as powerful as Ashura powerless, making the prospect of facing it in combat utterly futile. Recognizing the dire situation, Gamamura, the great toad sage, turned to address his fellow toads, stating with a heavy heart, "Leave this place immediately using the contract with Mount Maiboku, there is nothing you can do now." Gamamura conveyed this message with a profound sense of sorrow, understanding that their home on Mount Maiboku was no longer safe. Remaining there would inevitably lead to Juryoku discovering and destroying them. The only viable option was an immediate retreat from Mount Maiboku. This harsh reality was not lost on the toads present. They knew that their way of life was forever altered from this point onward. However, the urgency of preserving lives took precedence, prompting them to initiate their departure. In contrast to the mass exodus, Fukasaku and Shima defied the current, moving forward towards Juryoku, their actions hinting at a brave yet uncertain confrontation. Observing Fukasaku and Shima's unexpected actions, Gamamura was perplexed and urged, "Fukasaku and Shima, what are you doing? Return to Mount Maiboku." Fukasaku, without turning, responded, "This is our fault, and we will correct it." Baffled, Gamamura inquired, "What do you mean by correct it?" However, Fukasaku and Shima remained silent. Fukasaku, addressing Juryoku, stated, "We acknowledge our wrongdoing. We were overconfident about the strength of Mount Maiboku and made a mistake. We only request that whatever punishment awaits, please direct it towards us." Shima added, "Take our lives as the price, but please spare others and let them go." Kneeling before Juryoku, Fukasaku and Shima's actions sent shockwaves through the onlookers, particularly Jiraiya and Tsunade, who were aware of Fukasaku and Shima's esteemed positions just below the great toad sage. Juryoku, sensing the sincerity of their surrender and plea, was moved. Although touched by their genuine emotions, he understood that the toads had submitted not out of admiration but out of fear of his strength. Despite this, he remained resolute in his decision to carry out the annihilation of Mount Maiboku. "Enough. Although your words are sincere, the time for such appeals has passed. If you had taken this step earlier, the outcome might have been different. But now, I'm sorry, you no longer have a chance. My decision stands. I will destroy Mount Myaboku, declared Juryoku. Fukasaku and Shima wore faces of despair, fully aware that Juryoku would not spare them, yet they remained on the ground. Gamamura, who witnessed and heard everything, reassured Fukasaku and Shima, "You did nothing wrong. What you did was in the best interest of Konoha and Mount Myaboku. Both of you, leave." However, Fukasaku and Shima stayed put. Shima pleaded, "We understand that this might not immediately calm your anger, but at least spare the lives of our toad brethren who are leaving Mount Myaboku." "Ryoku-chan, please stop." Ino stepped forward, making her way toward Juryoku. However, she struggled to walk due to the presence of the black hole. Observing Ino's difficulty, Juryoku swiftly moved the black hole to the back and enveloped Ino in a gravity barrier, ensuring Ino remained unaffected by its gravitational pull. "Ino, stay there and speak your mind," Juryoku instructed. "Ryoku-chan, I understand that your words hold immense significance for you, and you rarely back down from them. But recall, when we first met, you said we wouldn't become friends. However, my persistence and love eventually won you over, didn't they?" Ino spoke, fixing her gaze on Juryoku. She continued, "I, too, felt anger upon learning about your life experiences. I even believed that the elders of the Konoha Council deserved the consequences. I was frustrated with Jiraiya-sama for halting your quest for revenge. However, the circumstances have changed drastically. You have achieved your revenge, proving your point by defeating Mount Myaboku. You demonstrated your superiority, breaking their confidence in being stronger than you. You killed some, but I believe they now realize their mistakes and powerlessness. Their transgressions, while significant, may not warrant extermination. They can be forgiven." Juryoku, upon hearing these words, found a moment of calm and pondered Ino's perspective. Ino continued, "I wholeheartedly support you. Even if you decide to exterminate Mount Myaboku now, I won't be dissatisfied or harbor resentment, because I believe in you. However, I want to convey one thing. I don't want to witness you becoming a villain in the eyes of the world. I don't want to see you succumb to the path of pure darkness." Upon hearing Ino's words, Juryoku paused, deep in thought. Ino's perspective resonated with undeniable truth. If he were to eliminate the toads of Mount Myaboku today, he would inevitably be branded as the villain worldwide. While he didn't particularly mind or care about such judgments, aware that strength often trumps societal norms, he couldn't disregard the future he envisioned for his family. Juryoku envisioned a family with his two prospective wives, Ino and Jokin. Though he could hear their support, he couldn't fathom subjecting them and his future children to the scorn that might accompany the label of a villain. The strength he sought to attain went hand in hand with a responsibility to protect those he cared for, and he was unwilling to let his actions tarnish the lives of those he loved. Chapter 135. After a profound contemplation, Juryoku decisively sheathed his sword and addressed Ino, "If you say so, then I will spare them for our future." Relieved, Ino finally smiled. She had harbored this sentiment earlier but hesitated, fearing that Juryoku might resent her interference. Observing the strength exhibited by the toads of Mount Myaboku, she believed they could defend themselves adequately. Little did she anticipate that, even after witnessing the toads' formidable power, they would prove no match for Juryoku. Witnessing Fukasaku and Shima's genuine remorse further swayed Ino, empowering her to voice her plea to Juryoku. After Juryoku's words, a wave of relief swept over not only Ino but also Tsunade, Jiraiya, and the remaining toads, realizing they were finally saved and free. Juryoku directed his attention to Fukasaku and Shima, stating, "Go. I spared you at Ino's request." With a wave of his hand, the black hole began to shrink and ultimately vanished. Although the black hole disappeared, the area retained its high gravity. After completing his actions, Juryoku nodded toward Ino and departed. Once Juryoku left, a collective sigh of relief echoed among the toads, knowing they were now safe. Jiraiya approached Fukasaku and Shima, assisting them in standing. "It's good that nothing happened to you both." Fukasaku and Shima nodded, relief evident on their faces. The toads, still shaken by the recent events, started leaving the area. Jiraiya, my boy, will you please collect the bodies of all the fallen toads and bring them to Mount Maiboku? Fukasaku requested. Jiraiya nodded, casting a somber glance at the fallen toads. A sense of sorrow washed over him, considering the time he had spent with these now lifeless companions since his childhood. At that moment, accompanied by a flash of lightning, a scroll descended from the sky before the onlookers. Judging by the peculiar manner of its arrival, most of the present ninjas speculated that the scroll was intended for the Kumo ninjas. In such a scenario, there was only one person capable of sending objects across vast distances, Mabui, the secretary of the Reikage. Upon laying eyes on the scroll, the Reikage's countenance turned grave. The way it arrived suggested urgency, implying that something crucial must have occurred in Kumogakure, demanding his immediate attention. Swiftly making his way to the scroll, he unrolled it and absorbed its contents. As he finished reading, anger contorted his features, and he closed the scroll with a forceful grip, muttering through clenched teeth, "Akatsuki! How dare you? I will not let you escape unpunished." Inoki, noticing the Reikage's intense reaction, inquired, "What has transpired to provoke such anger?" "Nothing that concerns you," Reikage retorted with an icy demeanor. He had no intention of publicly disclosing that his village had suffered the loss of a Jinchuriki. The scroll had delivered grim tidings. Yujito Ni, the host of the Two Tails, had been killed, and the beast extracted. Without wasting a moment, the Reikage bolted in the direction of Kumogakure, his resolve evident in his swift departure. It appears that Akatsuki has captured a Jinchuriki from Kumogakure. If the Eight Tails is here, then the captured Jinchuriki must be the host of the Two Tails, Kakashi deduced. Your deduction seems accurate. Keep an eye on Kumo, and upon our return to Konoha, confirm with our spies there to verify your deduction, Tsunade instructed. Yes, Kakashi affirmed. Orochimaru turned his gaze towards Sasuke and questioned, Sasuke, did you witness the strength of Juryoku? What do you think would happen if you were to challenge him now? Sasuke remained silent, aware that in Juryoku's eyes, he was still perceived as a vulnerable opponent who could be effortlessly crushed at any moment. While I may not be as powerful at the moment, I am determined to surpass him, Sasuke asserted. Sasuke, remember that our deal is drawing near, Orochimaru reminded him. Sasuke merely nodded, his expression unreadable. Let's depart before we attract attention from Konoha, Orochimaru suggested, prompting everyone on Sasuke's side to make a hasty retreat. Naruto, captivated by the recent clash between Juryoku and Ashura, noticed Sasuke running away. He called out, Sasuke, and started to pursue him. However, Kakashi intervened, blocking Naruto's path. Calm down, Naruto. Now is not the time. We'll search for Sasuke on another day, not today, Kakashi advised. But we might not get another chance to find Sasuke, Naruto protested. We'll have plenty of opportunities. For now, stay put. You're not allowed to go anywhere, Kakashi insisted. With Orochimaru and Sasuke's departure, ninjas from other villages began to leave, leaving only those from Konoha at the scene. Sigh. Finally, everything is over. I had already overestimated Juryoku's strength, but I never expected him to be this powerful. Every move he makes could destroy a small country, or at the very least, he alone could obliterate a major village with ease, Shikamaru commented. Inoichi, it seems that our decision to support him was correct, added Shikaku. Inoichi nodded in agreement, saying, yeah. At that moment, Sakura approached Ino and remarked, Ino, you've got yourself quite a powerful lover. But couldn't you have persuaded him earlier? Ino smiled in response and replied, yes, I could have, but I don't want to impose my thoughts on him. He can make decisions for himself. I spoke to him just now because I thought it was necessary to remind him of what he's doing. Sakura nodded and said, at the very least, you both have confirmed your relationship. Look at me, even though I'm more beautiful than you, I haven't been able to confirm my relationship. Ino, catching on to Sakura's reference to Sasuke, retorted, "Are you telling me you're more beautiful than me?" Witnessing Ino and Sakura bantering like this, everyone smiled. After such an intense battle and moments of tension, this light teasing between friends helped lift the mood of everyone present. Chapter 136. After the arduous experience on the battlefield, Juryoku promptly made his way back to the Jokin mansion. The expeditious return was facilitated by the battlefield's proximity to the fire country where the mansion was situated. The relative closeness of the battlefield to the mansion allowed for a swift and efficient journey back. Upon Juryoku's arrival at the Jokin mansion, Jokin herself sought him out. Observing that Juryoku appeared to be in good health, she approached him and inquired, "Are you all right?" "Absolutely," Juryoku responded confidently, "I'm fine. Nothing happened to me." Despite his outward appearance of well-being, Jokin, her concern etched on her face, probed further. "I can see that you look fine externally, but do you have any internal injuries?" she asked, her worry extending beyond the visible. "Yeah, I am absolutely fine, just as I appear on the outside," Juryoku reassured Jokin, his voice carrying a tone of confidence that mirrored his physical well-being. "Thank goodness you are fine," said Jokin, visibly relieved as she placed her hand on her chest, her facial expression reflecting the tension she had been harboring. Knowing that Juryoku was gearing up to challenge the toads of Mount Maiboku, and considering the presence of other ninjas at the location, she had been in a constant state of concern for his safety. "Did you achieve what you wanted to do?" she inquired, her curiosity mixed with genuine worry. "Almost, but not completely," responded Juryoku, a hint of determination in his voice. "What do you mean?" questioned Jokin, eager for clarification. "You will understand when you hear the news," Juryoku cryptically replied, leaving a sense of mystery lingering in the air. Confused by his response, Jokin refrained from further questioning. Instead, she decided to shift the focus, saying, "Okay then, if you don't want to say, no problem. After such a big battle, you must be tired. Go and rest. I will prepare food for you myself." Juryoku nodded in acknowledgement after hearing this and added, "Not today, I don't have the appetite to eat now. I'll just freshen up and head to bed. I'm thoroughly exhausted after the battle." In response, Jokin nodded understandingly and said, "All right, then. You go to your room. I'll arrange for someone to prepare a hot bath for you to help you relax." "Sounds perfect," replied Juryoku with gratitude. After conveying this, he made his way to his room, ready to unwind and find respite from the strenuous events of the battle. Upon his return to the room, Juryoku carefully closed the door, his movements deliberate and marked by a sense of fatigue. Weary from the battle, he made his way to the bathroom. As he leaned over the basin, an involuntary coughing fit seized him, leading to the unsettling sight of blood being expelled. During this moment of vulnerability, the sword in his hand, usually a symbol of strength and precision which was a crutch just in show thanks to his observation haki, now played a different role. In his weakened state, the sword transformed into a genuine crutch, providing essential support and stability. Contemplating the toll of recent events, Juryoku spoke quietly to himself, "I didn't expect that not only would the battle prove this taxing, but the journey through the black hole was also excruciatingly painful. It inflicted more injuries on me than the battle itself. Although I dismissed most of the minor injuries during the heat of the battle, they have now accumulated into a substantial number. And that's not to mention that after using EAM, my body has grown even weaker." The weight of his exhaustion and injuries became apparent as he reflected on the trials he had faced. Throughout the entire ordeal, Juryoku managed to conceal any signs of injury skillfully. The reason behind this facade was his deliberate effort to suppress the recurrence of his injuries, a practice he maintained even in the presence of Jokin. He was determined not to reveal the slightest hint of his injuries to her, as he didn't want her to bear unnecessary tension. His ability to control gravity played a crucial role in his ability to conceal these injuries. By manipulating the gravitational forces within his body, he enabled his internal organs to withstand and contain the impact of his injuries. A soothing hot bath had been prepared for Juryoku, and he immersed himself in its warmth. As he relaxed in the water, he couldn't help but ponder his recent actions spanning the past few days or months. The revelation came to him after his intense battle with Ashura and the valuable insights gained from Ino's opinions. Juryoku realized that, after not experiencing a satisfying fight for a considerable time, he had come to regard everyone as unworthy. This mindset had fostered arrogance within him, ultimately serving as a primary motivator for his attack on the Toads. Ding! Congratulations, host, on winning a battle against someone at levels closest to the Sage of Six Paths. By achieving this, you have successfully completed a hidden system mission ahead of schedule. As a result, the host will receive the reward in advance. Congratulations, host, on acquiring the one-time ability to absorb the Ten Tails chakra. Chapter 137. Confused by this revelation, Juryoku asked, "Are you suggesting that I become a Jinchuriki of the Ten Tails?" Ding! Absolutely not, host. Quite the opposite, in fact. You will not only gain the ability to absorb the chakra of the Ten Tails, but also assimilate it as your own. Furthermore, there's the potential to awaken Akatsuki characteristics within yourself. However, to unlock these powers, your initial task is to confront and defeat Kaguya, subsequently separating the Ten Tails from her. I see, remarked Juryoku, contemplating the information. So, it appears I won't be assuming the role of a Jinchuriki like Hagoromo. Instead, I am destined to absorb the Ten Tails, seamlessly integrating its chakra into my own essence, akin to the way I assimilate Fujitora template, he concluded, acknowledging the unique path laid out before him. Ding! Correct, host. Juryoku nodded in silent acknowledgement after absorbing the information. He mused, having the chakra of the Ten Tails will undoubtedly be advantageous. The mystic eyes of death perception, a shinjutsu technique, exacts a toll on my chakra, depleting it at an accelerated pace. Unlike the Akatsuki, I lack the colossal chakra reserves necessary for sustained use of this technique. Even with my current abundance of chakra, a mere 5 minutes of wielding the mystic eyes of death perception drains more than 3/4 of my reserves, leaving me nearly exhausted. It's clear I need to bolster my strength. My current capabilities are insufficient for subduing the Ten Tails and vanquishing Kaguya. Notably, I struggled against Ashura, unable to secure victory without resorting to my trump card. Furthermore, I've uncovered a weakness in the mystic eyes of death perception. It fails to sever specific parts of souls from bodies, and with a heavy sigh, Juryoku articulated his thoughts on his current predicament. Just as Juryoku delved into contemplation about expediting his strength enhancement, a sudden resonating sound from the system pierced his thoughts. Ding! Congratulations, host, on your remarkable accomplishment of completing the Isho, Fujitora template, reaching an impressive 100%. This achievement heralds the unlocking of a new template. Bravo, host, on now gaining access to the Lucifero the Devil template. A noteworthy detail to consider, host, is that the formidable magical power inherent in Lucifero will undergo a conversion process, transforming into chakra. Juryoku, upon hearing this, was so elated that he nearly stood up, and the source of his enthusiasm was none other than the revelation that he now possessed Lucifero's template. Brimming with excitement, Juryoku couldn't contain himself and asked, "System, if I recall correctly, the magic power of Lucifero, when unleashed in its entirety, is said to be more than enough to destroy the entire world. Will my chakra also ascend to such monumental levels with this new template?" Ding! Rest assured, host, there is no need for concern. Your chakra is destined to reach the same extraordinary levels. Additionally, you will be bestowed with the remarkable body magic of Dante's Ogrades, further enhancing your newfound capabilities. This is truly fantastic. The abundance of chakra at my disposal is more than sufficient for me to stand toe-to-toe with Kaguya. And considering the formidable strength of Lucifero compounded with my current abilities, my prowess is poised to reach an even greater extent, exclaimed Juryoku with a genuine sense of excitement. As he recollected the latter part of the system's announcement, he added, "This revelation is an even bigger surprise." With the incorporation of Dante's Ogrades body magic, the prospect of easily healing from any injuries without a hitch is a remarkable advantage. Previously, I found myself fretting about how to expedite my strength enhancement, but now, with these substantial power buffs, I no longer carry that concern. It is my strong belief that I will not only become stronger but ascend to new heights, Juryoku declared, a visible sense of relief now gracing his countenance. Ding! Host, it is advised that you patiently wait for 1 month before embarking on your training for the strength of Lucifero, allowing ample time for preparation and adjustment to your enhanced capabilities. Congratulations, host, are in order for unlocking the body magic in advance, presenting you with a unique advantage that can be further honed and integrated into your evolving skill set. Upon processing the system's directive, Juryoku found himself entangled in confusion. Why wouldn't the system allow him to commence training in the Lucifero template for a month? The puzzle persisted until the system bestowed upon him the ability to wield body magic. This newfound skill allowed him to perceive an unprecedented control over all the tissues within his body. Eager to test this capability, Juryoku initiated the manipulation of internal tissues, orchestrating the repair of his injuries. The mending process, however, was short-lived, as he had to pause. The reason being, he found himself in a depleted state of chakra. Recognizing this limitation, Juryoku acknowledged the necessity to first replenish his chakra reserves before achieving a complete regeneration of his injuries through the application of body magic. Chapter 138. While Juryoku took his time to rest and recuperate from his injuries, Reikage and Killer Bee were actively sprinting in the direction of Kumogakure. The sense of urgency arose due to the demise of a vital and formidable asset for Kumogakure, Yujito ni, Two-Tails Jinchuriki. For Reikage, Yujito ni was perceived as nothing more than a strategic tool that could be wielded against rival villages, and his feelings about her passing were rather nonchalant. However, what truly incited his ire and remorse was the irrevocable loss of the tailed beast, a significant setback that would undeniably diminish Kumogakure's strength. After embarking on an arduous journey lasting nearly 18 hours, Reikage and Killer Bee ultimately arrived at Kumogakure. The expeditious pace of their journey was driven by the battlefield's close proximity to the border of the Fire Country. Kumogakure happened to be conveniently near, allowing ordinary ninjas to cover the distance within a day and a half. Furthermore, Reikage, propelled by Killer Bee's assistance, surged forward at maximum velocity, ensuring their swift and prompt arrival at Kumogakure. Upon Reikage's entrance into his office, where Mabui was stationed, he inquired of her, "Can you confirm whether the capture of the Two-Tails has indeed taken place?" Mabui, in response, conveyed, "Yes, one of our ninjas bore witness to the event." However, out of trepidation for the Akatsuki members, this ninja refrained from intervening. Instead, feigning death, the ninja secretly observed the entire incident. "I see," Reikage nodded in acknowledgement, yet the tension in his clenched fists betrayed his evident frustration towards the unfolding predicament. Despite his internal turmoil, he recognized the necessity of maintaining a composed demeanor if he were to successfully navigate the recovery of the Two-Tails. He proceeded to delve deeper into the matter, posing an additional inquiry, "Have you delved into their identities? Have you unearthed any relevant information about these Akatsuki members?" Mabui responded, "Indeed, we have identified one of the Akatsuki members. His name is Kakuzu, a seasoned bounty hunter in the black market. According to the intelligence we've amassed, he stands as a missing nin from Takigakure, having mastery over a forbidden technique that renders him immortal, and his current age seems to be more than 90. Bastard!" The exclamation burst from Reikage's lips, accompanied by a forceful punch that struck the table with seething anger, resulting in its shattering. Kakuzu wasn't an unfamiliar figure to Reikage. As the leader of a major village, he often resorted to employing black market bounty hunters for less savory tasks. Adding to Kakuzu's notorious reputation was his infamous attempt to assassinate the first Hokage. While this endeavor might circulate as a jest among ninjas worldwide, the audacity required to attempt the assassination of the first Hokage couldn't be dismissed as mere weakness. No wonder Yujito ni was killed, and the Two-Tails were captured, Reikage remarked, frustration evident in his tone. "Fool! Yeah, fool! Let me go, "I'll capture those two culprits immediately," retorted Killer Bee, maintaining his characteristic rap-infused tone and eagerness to take action. "Shut up. Don't even think about it. You won't leave the confines of Kumogakure. We've already lost 2 tails. Kumogakure can't afford to lose another Jinchuriki," declared Reikage firmly, emphasizing the gravity of the situation and the necessity to protect Kumogakure's remaining assets. Killer Bee could only stand helplessly, fully aware of the vast difference in strength between himself and his formidable brother. The knowledge that his brother wouldn't permit him to venture beyond the confines of Kumogakure further left him feeling trapped and powerless. Send a competent ninja team to launch a thorough search for Kakuzu and his accomplice. Additionally, dispatch a message to Konoha, urging them to share any information they possess about Akatsuki, given their extensive knowledge of the organization, commanded Reikage. Mabui acknowledged the directive with a nod and promptly affirmed, "I will initiate these actions immediately." She followed up with another query, "Reikage, you were present to witness Juryoku's battle. Could you share the outcome? The daimyo is keen to know. What outcome could there be? Juryoku is an absolute monster, a force of destruction personified. While I'm willing to make enemies with almost anyone, I'm reluctant to provoke someone of his caliber at this juncture in his life. Considering his current strength, I can't even begin to imagine the heights of power he may attain in the future. I'll furnish you with a detailed account of the battle later. In the meantime, issue a directive that if anyone encounters Juryoku, an immediate and strategic retreat is the only course of action," cautioned Reikage, emphasizing the urgency and potential danger posed by the formidable adversary. Upon absorbing this revelation, Mabui found herself in a state of utter astonishment. Having a keen understanding of Reikage's formidable power and the prideful persona he exuded, she was well aware that he wouldn't succumb to a cowardly retreat even amidst a full-scale ninja siege. This level of pride was ingrained in him. Hence, the unexpected evaluation of Juryoku, delivered in a manner suggesting a departure from his usual assessment approach, left Mabui completely taken aback. The revelation not only challenged her perception of Reikage but also stirred a sense of curiosity about the nature of Juryoku's power that could elicit such an uncharacteristic response from someone as resolute as Reikage. Chapter 139. Subsequent to the intense battlefield account, Reikage took the time to elucidate to Mabui every detail of the events that unfolded, providing an intricate analysis of Juryoku's formidable strength. Through Reikage's vivid descriptions, Mabui gained a profound understanding of the rationale behind Reikage's earlier statements regarding Juryoku. Ensure that his abilities and capabilities are conveyed accurately to every ninja, preventing any tendencies of overestimation, Reikage emphasized. Grasping the gravity of the directive, Mabui nodded in earnest acknowledgement. She swiftly exited Reikage's office, armed with the responsibility to disseminate this crucial information among the ninja ranks, thereby ensuring a well-informed understanding of Juryoku. The conduct observed in Reikage wasn't an isolated incident. Upon the return of the Kages to their respective villages, a unanimous approach took shape. Their first collective action was to issue a directive to every ninja within their ranks. The instruction was unequivocal: if, by any chance, Juryoku is spotted, the immediate course of action is to flee on sight. Alternatively, a detour is recommended, emphasizing the absolute prohibition against any confrontation with Juryoku. This consistent response underscored the widespread recognition of Juryoku's unparalleled strength and the need for every ninja to exercise caution in their encounters with him. Owing to the proactive initiatives implemented by the major villages and the robust demonstration of strength by Juryoku, the moniker Raijin no Juryoku experienced a resurgence, disseminating widely across various regions. As a result of this renewed recognition, the reputation of Juryoku ascended to unprecedented heights, establishing a prominent and enduring presence. Despite the tremendous impact of these events, they not only sparked admiration but also instilled a sense of unease among the more significant nations. A full week had transpired since the intense battle involving Juryoku, Mount Myaboku, and Ashura. The widespread dissemination of news regarding Juryoku's formidable battle prowess reached every major country, causing immediate disquiet among the daimyo. These leaders had been harboring the illusion of absolute control, and the sudden emergence of Juryoku served as a stark reality check, shattering their perception. Swiftly responding to the newfound uncertainty, emissaries were hastily dispatched from various major countries to their respective villages under their influence, seeking to ascertain the unfolding situation and its implications. Entering the Reikage's office with a man and 2 apparent assistants, Mabui made his way inside. "Reikage-sama, I've brought the emissaries from the daimyo mansion," Mabui announced respectfully after stepping into the Reikage's domain. Acknowledging Mabui's statement, the Reikage nodded and gestured for the emissaries to take a seat. Following the Reikage's silent directive, the emissaries assumed their respective positions, settling into the chairs provided. Observing the formalities, the Reikage remarked, "It appears that the daimyo has dispatched you, suggesting there must be a matter of significant importance." "Yes, Reikage-sama, and it pertains to the Raijin no Juryoku," responded the head emissary. At the mention of Juryoku's name, a solemn expression enveloped the Reikage's face, and he inquired, "What news do you bring regarding Juryoku?" "The strength wielded by Juryoku has not escaped the notice of our daimyo, and genuine concerns have arisen. This sentiment is not confined to the lightning country alone. The daimyos of the wind, earth, and water countries share similar apprehensions regarding Juryoku's formidable abilities," conveyed the head emissary, emphasizing the widespread nature of the concern. Perplexed by the cryptic statements, Reikage responded, "Why beat around the bush? Just speak plainly. What is the precise message you wish to convey? In the broader context of our current situation, everything may seem stable, but it's imperative to recognize that Juryoku is a steadfast supporter of Jokin, who undoubtedly stands as the next in line to assume the mantle of daimyo," disclosed the head emissary. Acknowledging the gravity of this revelation, Reikage responded with understanding, "I comprehend. Please, provide more details." Having grasped the pivotal information presented by the emissary, Reikage encouraged him to delve further into the intricacies of the matter at hand. "We duly acknowledge the formidable strength possessed by Juryoku, and examining Jokin's conduct leads us to the conclusion that she harbors ambitious aspirations. There exists a substantial likelihood that, upon assuming the mantle of daimyo, Jokin will earnestly endeavor to bring about the unification of the entire ninja world. Moreover, anticipating the continued growth in Juryoku's strength by that time, the prospect becomes even more significant. As you are undoubtedly aware, the bond between Juryoku and the Fire Country is intricately tied to Jokin. Therefore, it becomes imperative to consider." The head emissary articulated his thoughts, and with a deliberate pause, he concluded the statement, his expression suggesting a shared understanding, as if to convey, "If you know, you know." Having occupied the esteemed position of Reikage for an extended duration, Reikage demonstrated a keen understanding of the nuanced implications embedded in the head emissary's message. Abruptly, a smile graced Reikage's countenance, and he vocalized, "Are you proposing that we entertain the idea of assassinating Jokin?" While the head emissary refrained from explicitly verbalizing it, the underlying objective became palpable. In the wake of Reikage's statement, an agreement echoed through his silence, signifying a shared understanding of the suggested course of action. Chapter 140. After observing Reikage's initial smile, the head emissary interpreted it as an indication that Reikage was in agreement with his proposal to assassinate the Jokin of the Fire Country. However, the situation swiftly took a turn when Reikage's countenance shifted abruptly from one of amiability to one of anger. Accompanied by a resounding bang on the table, Reikage rose to his feet and directed a stern remark at the head emissary, "Have you gone insane? Is your brain in your knees? Do you even comprehend the gravity of what you are proposing?" Throughout Reikage's delivery, his voice resonated with an unparalleled sense of anger. Responding to Reikage's rebuke, the head emissary asserted, "What do you mean, Reikage? And kindly watch your tone when addressing me." Reikage retorted, "I am already composed in my articulation. If the circumstances were different, I would have readily administered a physical response to anyone uttering the words you just did." Upon processing Reikage's vehement words, the head emissary found himself perplexed but opted for a strategic silence. Well acquainted with Reikage's fiery temperament, he recognized that while there might be minimal risk of physical harm, it was prudent to avoid any unnecessary confrontation. Thus, he chose to maintain a composed silence in the face of the unfolding tension. "Have you not thoroughly perused the comprehensive report we dispatched to the daimyo mansion?" inquired Reikage. "Indeed, we have meticulously reviewed the entire report. That's precisely why we advocate for the implementation of stringent measures to subdue Juryoku," asserted the head emissary. "So, you affirm reading the report. Yet, did you overlook the segment where it explicitly detailed Juryoku's assault on Mount Maiboku due to their refusal to heed his warnings and thwarting his pursuit of revenge?" questioned Reikage, inserting a deliberate pause for emphasis. Reikage proceeded, "Now, envision the repercussions if his beloved were to perish. I can assure you that, driven by the need to uncover the identity of the assailant responsible for his lover's demise, he would upheave the entire world until he brings the perpetrator to justice. Moreover, consider the slim chance, 0.1%, to be exact, that he discerns Kumogakure and the Lightning Country's involvement in his lover's death. Even someone with the intellect of a child can predict that Kumogakure and the Lightning Country would be obliterated from the ninja world map. Yes, esteemed head emissary. While your proposed strategy might effectively deter Juryoku from launching assaults on other major nations, the loss of his beloved is a catalyst sufficient for him to instigate attacks on all major villages and countries, driven by the singular objective of uncovering the true culprit behind his lover's, the esteemed Joken's, untimely demise," opined Mabui, offering her insightful analysis on the matter. "Not only Kumogakure, but other major villages such as Iwagakure, Kirigakure, and Sunagakure also received emissaries from their respective ruling countries. However, similar to Reikage, each and every Kage ultimately rejected the proposal. Their apprehension towards Juryoku was rooted in two main reasons. Firstly, there was the evident factor: they had all witnessed the formidable battle prowess and strength that Juryoku possessed. The second reason was a more nuanced one, revolving around Juryoku's temperament. Unlike the first Hokage, Senju Hashirama, known for his gentle nature and reluctance to endorse further wars and bloodshed, Juryoku presented a strikingly different personality. While the major villages had successfully negotiated with Senju Hashirama in the past due to these qualities, Juryoku's disposition was marked by his powerful nature and a distinct lack of concern for anyone other than his family and friends. Furthermore, it was crucial to acknowledge that once Juryoku unleashed a killing spree, the potential consequences would render it nearly impossible to safeguard anyone from the relentless wrath he would bring upon them. Despite the emissaries from different major countries falling short of accomplishing their objectives, a notable turn of events occurred the following day. The bounty on the head of Joken saw a substantial increase. This development made it abundantly clear that, while these daimyos were constrained from taking overt actions, they could, at the very least, exploit the avenues of the black market to engage the services of skilled individuals with the sinister aim of assassinating Joken. Chapter 141. 3 weeks later, in the central city of the Fire Country, where the country's administration is headquartered, a caravan emerged from the Joken mansion. Seated within the caravan was none other than Joken herself, and its destination was the daimyo mansion. Along the caravan's route, numerous houses lined the path, and atop one of these structures, a group of 5 individuals dressed in black attire crouched, concealed to avoid detection. "Is it safe to strike Joken's caravan at this moment?" inquired one member of the group. "Yes, we won't have such an opportunity again. We've confirmed that Juryoku is not present in this caravan, so we can attack without hesitation," asserted the individual positioned in the middle of the group, who also served as their leader. Despite the leader's assurance, a sense of restlessness and fear persisted among the other members. Recognizing their unease, the leader addressed them, stating, "Why hesitate? This chance won't come again, and the potential rewards are substantial. The amount of money we stand to gain is enormous, providing you the means to live a life of prosperity. No more risking your lives in the black market or living in constant danger. This is an opportunity for a secure and affluent life." Upon the completion of the leader's persuasive speech, the allure of a prosperous life and the promise of vast wealth overshadowed their inherent fears of death and potential consequences. Driven by newfound determination, all members of the group eagerly prepared to launch an attack on the caravan, awaiting a signal from their leader. Witnessing the transformation in the team's mindset, the leader couldn't contain his joy and exclaimed, without a moment's delay, "Let's strike." Taking the initiative, he leaped from the rooftop of the house, setting an example for his team. Following suit, his comrades gracefully descended towards the caravan, ready to execute the meticulously planned assault. The vigilant soldiers guarding the caravan noticed the approach of these shadowy figures and urgently cried out, "Enemy attack! Enemy attack!" As a seasoned ninja and a jonin at that, the leading team leader exuded confidence, dismissing the soldiers with a laugh. "Today, nothing can thwart us from achieving our goal. We will defeat." However, before he could finish his sentence, an immense force abruptly descended upon him and his teammates. Like featherless birds, they plummeted to the ground, adhering helplessly to the surface. Subdued by this formidable force, the leader and his fellow ninjas contemplated their predicament. They realized that an invisible, overwhelming force was at play, progressively increasing and exerting pressure on their bodies. If unchecked, this force threatened to reduce them to mere pulp. Recognizing the nature of the attack, they identified the perpetrator, the only individual in the fire country with mastery over gravity, Juryoku, who resided in proximity to Jokin. As gravity tightened its grip around them, the assailants acknowledged the dire situation, aware that their adversary possessed the formidable ability to manipulate the force itself. In this gravity-manipulated predicament, it was unmistakably the handiwork of Juryoku. Enduring the oppressive weight of intensified gravity, each individual struggled to articulate even the simplest words. However, the group's indomitable leader, though with great effort, managed to convey, I clearly saw Juryoku not following. In that moment, a figure approached, revealing itself to be none other than Juryoku. His retort, delivered with an air of detachment, cut through the strained atmosphere. "A dead person doesn't need to know much." With the utterance of Juryoku's words, the gravitational force surrounding the black-clad assailant surged, mercilessly crushing the ninja leader and his team beneath its unyielding pressure, sealing their fate in an instant. As the dust settled, Jokin emerged from the caravan, aligning herself beside Juryoku. Surveying the lifeless bodies of the 5 attackers who sought to end her life, she voiced her frustration. "These bounty hunter ninjas launch attacks incessantly. I am wearied by the constant threat. Beyond these bounty hunters, I must remain vigilant. Even my loyal soldiers or maids might turn against me for a sum of money." Juryoku responded, shedding light on the dire situation. "What do you expect, with a bounty on your head exceeding 1.5 billion? The other 4 major countries have made their intentions clear. They seek your demise." Jokin, after a contemplative sigh, acknowledged the bitter reality. Indeed, life sometimes pales in comparison to the allure of wealth. With renewed determination, she continued, "I've instructed my people to investigate the sudden spike in my bounty. Finally, I have an answer. The other major nations have collectively raised the stakes on my life. Their intentions are unequivocal. They want me dead. In a way, their strategy has succeeded. These ninjas are aware that I am here to safeguard you, and my strength is widely recognized. Yet, they persist, hoping to succeed in assassinating you and subsequently lead a life of luxury. However, they've made a grave mistake. As long as I draw breath, no one can lay a finger on my girlfriend," declared Juryoku with unwavering resolve. Upon hearing the concluding remark from Juryoku, a genuine smile graced Jokin's face. In that moment, the incessant frustration of being relentlessly targeted seemed to dissipate. Chapter 142, Juryoku gently took hold of Jokin's hand and reassured her, "Fear not. Within the next 5 days, I shall address the issue of your incessant targeting. Either the bounty on your head will be lifted, or I will eradicate the black market's influence in the ninja world. Those major countries that have set their sights on you will pay the price for their audacity." Upon hearing Juryoku's words, Jokin nodded in unwavering trust and expressed, "I believe in you." In the next moment, Juryoku skillfully crafted a shadow clone and instructed it, "I'll be away for a few days. During my absence, your duty is to safeguard Jokin." The shadow clone, an exact duplicate of the original, acknowledged this directive with a nod. Swiftly organizing measures to ensure Joken's safety, the clone immediately assumed its protective role as Juryoku departed on his mission. After soaring through the skies for several hours, Juryoku arrived at a concealed hideout of the black market. Without a moment's hesitation, he entered the clandestine establishment. Inside the black market hideout, a group of ninjas, most of them concealing their faces to safeguard their identities from potential attacks spurred by the bounties on their heads, observed Juryoku's entrance. Their trepidation was palpable, having heard tales of Juryoku's formidable prowess. Their first-hand witness of the aftermath at the location where Juryoku had previously clashed with adversaries only heightened their fear, as the wreckage attested to the extraordinary power possessed by this seemingly ordinary 18-year-old. These bounty hunters promptly sought refuge in the corners, wary of becoming collateral damage in the wake of any of Juryoku's potential moves. Unfazed by their reactions, Juryoku proceeded directly to the black market's booth, where the manager presided. The manager, recognizing Juryoku, promptly rose from his seat and extended a respectful greeting. "It's been a while, Mr. Juryoku. Your presence is always a significant event. Is there a specific purpose for your visit? Anything you need, just name it, and I'll do my utmost to assist you." Disregarding the formalities, Juryoku cut straight to the heart of the matter. "I'm here about relentless attacks on Joken. In the past 3 weeks alone, she's faced nearly 20 assassination attempts, almost averaging one per day. While these ninjas pose nothing more than a nuisance in my eyes, the incessant assaults are becoming irritating. I'm here with a proposition for the black market. Either you eliminate the bounty on Joken's head, or I eradicate your existence from this world." The black market manager hesitated momentarily before responding. "Removing the bounty is impossible. It's a fundamental rule of the black market. I care little for your rules. There must be individuals who wield influence over the black market. Relay my message precisely to them. Tomorrow, at this very hour, I will return for an answer," declared Juryoku resolutely. With that, he promptly took his leave. Juryoku refrained from immediately unleashing destruction upon the black market. His wariness stemmed from a suspicion that Jigen might be pulling the strings behind this shadowy enterprise. Jigen's extensive research demands copious resources and funds, making the black market an ideal source. Aware of his own current limitations in confronting Jigen, Juryoku sought to avoid unnecessary entanglements and trouble. On the promised day, Juryoku arrived at the black market hideout, standing resolute before the black market manager. With unwavering determination, he inquired, "What decision have the higher-ups of your black market reached regarding Joken's bounty?" Drawing a deep breath, the black market manager hesitated before responding. "The bounty on Joken's head remains intact. However, before you decide on any course of action against the black market, it's imperative for you to comprehend the intricate web of interests at play. Our operations are endorsed by all nations, with various stakeholders involved, including ministers from the Fire Country." Acknowledging this information, Juryoku remained composed and commented, "I see. So, you've chosen the second option. No problem. You will receive what you've asked for." With that, he calmly left the black market hideout. As Juryoku casually strolled away from the scene, a few vigilant ninjas monitored his every move. Observing his lack of immediate action, they collectively sighed in relief. Yet, their momentary respite swiftly transformed into renewed tension. Suddenly, an overwhelming force descended upon them. Before the black market ninjas could react, chaos ensued within the hideout. In a matter of seconds, everything and everyone present were systematically crushed, leaving behind a vast circular pit with a depth exceeding 10 meters. The surviving ninjas, now witnesses to the sheer might of Juryoku, stood in horror. His unhurried departure, juxtaposed against the scene of devastation, emphasized the staggering magnitude of his strength. Having reduced the black market hideout to ruins, Juryoku gracefully ascended into the air, leaving the site behind. The echoes of his powerful actions reverberated, marking the conclusion of his intervention in the shadowy realm of the black market. Chapter 143, The trend of obliterating black market bases within the Fire Country gained momentum, as Juryoku systematically targeted and destroyed each one known to him. This relentless pursuit did not escape the attention of those whose interests were intricately tied to the clandestine operations of the black market. Despite their awareness, they found themselves powerless in the face of Juryoku's actions, acknowledging that attempting to oppose him would be foolhardy given his unmatched capabilities. Throughout Juryoku's systematic destruction of the black market, an intriguing occurrence unfolded. He consistently demolished every black market base using the same method employed in the destruction of the initial one. This established a discernible pattern. Wherever a colossal, circular pit emerged, there was a staggering 99% probability that a black market base had previously occupied the spot. This revelation prompted numerous ninjas and civilians to try their luck, eagerly hoping to capitalize on the remnants of the raised black market bases and potentially amass wealth from the ruins. In the opulent setting of the daimyo mansion in the water country, a crucial meeting unfolded. "Daimyo-sama, in accordance with your directives, we have escalated the bounty on Joken's head from the fire country. The outcomes are deeply promising. Since the augmentation of the bounty on Joken's head, there has been a notable surge in the number of attempts to assassinate him. If this upward trend persists, there is a conceivable chance that, by mere chance, an assassination attempt on Joken might eventually succeed," conveyed the finance minister of the water country. "This strategic maneuver will undoubtedly work to our advantage. Even if the assassination of Joken does not come to fruition, the incessant threat she will have to live under will inevitably take a toll on her mental well-being. This sustained psychological pressure will effectively eliminate her from the contention for the throne of the fire country's daimyo. Ultimately, our overarching goal will be triumphantly achieved. After all, we harbor no desire to witness her ascend to the position of the fire country's daimyo," articulated the daimyo, seated prominently in the heart of the meeting room. "Indeed, and in the process, the fire country stands to lose the invaluable support of Juryoku," contributed another minister to the discussion. Seizing the moment, the general of the water country rose from his seat and offered a cautionary perspective. "It appears that some among us may be overlooking a crucial aspect. Let us not forget that Juryoku is a person of volatile temperament. If he perceives any form of offense, there is a substantial likelihood that we might find ourselves contending with a monumental disaster. General, your concern may be excessive. At most, Juryoku might engage in the destruction of a few black market bases. Beyond that, the bounty will persist on Joken's head, and any losses incurred from the black market bases can be promptly recovered," reassured the finance minister. However, a discernible anxiety lingered on the countenance of the general as he voiced his apprehension. "I do not fear the destruction of black market bases by Juryoku. What truly concerns me is the prospect that, in his fit of anger, Juryoku might launch an assault on all our major countries. Even in the event of an attack, we need not worry. We can entrust the situation to Kirigakure. After all, we provide them with ample funds, ensuring their allegiance in our favor," articulated another minister, expressing confidence in their strategic approach. The consensus among others in the room echoed agreement with this ministerial perspective. To them, ninjas were perceived not as independent entities but rather as a military force created and sustained by their authority. Implicit in this belief was the expectation that ninjas should fight for their cause and, if circumstances demanded, make the ultimate sacrifice in service to their interests. The daimyo, maintaining a tone of unwavering confidence, affirmed, "Indeed, as esteemed daimyo, we can rest assured that those ninjas will never dare to launch an attack against us." However, the tranquility of the meeting was abruptly disrupted as faint yet urgent voices seeped into the room from the outside. The packed nature of the meeting space suggested that chaos and clamor had erupted beyond its confines. The sudden turmoil cast the meeting attendees into a state of confusion, prompting speculation about the cause of the commotion within the daimyo mansion. Addressing the situation with an air of authority, the daimyo instructed, "Investigate the source of the disturbance outside. Anyone causing a disturbance within the daimyo mansion must face consequences." In response to the directive, the general promptly swung open the door of the meeting room. As the door creaked ajar, the voices from outside flooded the room, carrying messages of distress. "Run! Help! Somebody help! We're all going to die!" How can such a large meteor fall on the daimyo mansion? Echoed panicked voices, causing an immediate shift in the countenance of everyone present in the meeting room. Reacting swiftly to the unfolding crisis, the general seized a nearby soldier, gripping him firmly by the collar, and urgently demanded an explanation. Why is there widespread panic and chaotic movement? Enlighten me on the cause of this unrest, he insisted. The soldier, initially positioned at the forefront, found himself taken aback by the sudden and intense reaction of the general. However, this momentary surprise swiftly transformed into an expression of unbridled fear as he stammered out, "A very large meteor is descending at an alarming speed towards the daimyo mansion." The general, responding with incredulity, couldn't contain his shock and involuntarily loosened his grip on the soldier. Seizing the opportunity, the soldier wasted no time and made a hasty exit, leaving the general in a state of disbelief. The gravity of the soldier's alarming revelation resonated with the ministers and the daimyo. Without a moment's hesitation, they sprang into action, swiftly evacuating the meeting room. Their urgent retreat led them to an open area within the daimyo mansion, where they collectively directed their gaze toward the ominous descent of the meteor. As the impending catastrophe unfolded before their eyes, a profound sense of terror seized everyone present. The sight of the meteor hurtling towards the very mansion they currently occupied left them frozen in place, grappling with the magnitude of the impending disaster. In the midst of this collective horror, the general's keen intuition detected something unusual. With a swift glance in a particular direction, he beheld an 18-year-old man adorned in a black kimono, eyes closed, hovering in the sky. Recognizing this mysterious figure, the general promptly identified him with a sense of realization, exclaiming, "Raijin no Juryoku." Chapter 144. After listening to the general's words, a collective hush fell over the assembly of ministers, each member, including the esteemed daimyo, turning their attention towards the designated direction pointed out by the general. As their gaze fixed upon the figure suspended in midair, a palpable stillness gripped the atmosphere. A wave of petrification swept through the onlookers, for Juryoku was, unequivocally, the last individual they anticipated encountering at this juncture. The assemblage of ministers, far from being naive, promptly discerned the purpose of Juryoku's presence. It dawned on them that the impending falling meteor was not a mere act of nature but an orchestrated assault by Juryoku, the sole master capable of invoking meteors and unleashing them upon any chosen location. Attempting to project an air of composure, the daimyo inquired, "Raijin no Juryoku, what compels you to attack my mansion?" Despite his efforts, the subtle tremor in his voice betrayed an undercurrent of genuine fear. Addressing the gathering, Juryoku retorted, "You are all shrewd individuals, well aware of the reasons behind my attack. You have dared to target Jokin, knowing full well that she is my girlfriend. Now, the repercussions of your actions demand payment." Seeking to engage in a dialogue, the daimyo questioned, "But why target us? The water country is not the only one fixated on Jokin from the fire country." In an attempt to reason with Juryoku, "Who said that you will be the only ones to perish? It's just that you are the first ones to face this fate, subsequently, the other three countries will also follow suit," Juryoku coldly asserted. "But I am the daimyo of the water country. Do you not fear the public outrage that will inevitably ensue after my demise?" queried the water country's daimyo, his concern palpable. In response, Juryoku casually retorted, "Do you think elephants will care when ants speak ill of them?" The daimyo, upon hearing Juryoku's dismissive analogy, realized that, in Juryoku's eyes, individuals like him were insignificant, akin to ants, and their existence held no sway over the formidable figure. As the impending meteor loomed dangerously close to his opulent mansion, the daimyo, casting aside the facade of daimyo dignity, swiftly knelt on the ground, fervently pleading with Juryoku, "I implore you to spare my life. I pledge to promptly revoke the bounty on Jokin's head from the fire country." Observing the daimyo's desperate plea, the other ministers, sensing the gravity of the situation, collectively followed suit, their pleas for forgiveness echoing in unison. However, despite the impassioned entreaties and supplications from the daimyo and his ministers, Juryoku's face remained stoic and unyielding. He was unwavering in his resolve to use these daimyos from different countries as a deterrent, ensuring they never dared to threaten his beloved girlfriend again. In a swift and cataclysmic event, the meteor collided with the daimyo mansion, acting as the epicenter of destruction that radiated outward, reducing the entire city of the water country to a desolate expanse of dust and rubble. A mere few minutes prior, the city's inhabitants had been caught in a frenzied state of chaos, scurrying in all directions. Abruptly, an undetectable force enveloped them, lifting their bodies into the air and inducing a state of weightless suspension. Despite valiant attempts by some to resist, the force relentlessly elevated them until, in a startling twist of fate, they were collectively expelled from the city. This orchestrated phenomenon, masterminded by Juryoku, sought to bring about the city's demise without plunging it into the agony of mass murder. In the current time, as these displaced individuals gazed upon the ruins of the city they and their forefathers had inhabited for generations, a chorus of anguished cries and frustrated roars reverberated through the air. Astonished by the source of their collective distress, they grappled with a deep-seated uncertainty. Was this catastrophe the result of human misdeeds or the manipulations of an extraordinarily powerful entity? Just as these disoriented and bereft people endeavored to make sense of the unfolding calamity, a commanding voice echoed in their ears, delivering a proclamation: "My name is Juryoku, and I am the one who wrought destruction upon this city." The reason is straightforward: they committed actions they shouldn't have. Having made this declaration, Juryoku, impervious to the tumultuous emotions and outrage of the crowd, took flight without a second thought. His journey was far from over, for he had 3 more daimyo mansions to visit and meet out a similar fate. The same catastrophic sequence of events that unfolded at the water country's daimyo mansion echoed with eerie repetition across the remaining 3 major countries. In an unrelenting wave of destruction, the Wind Country, Lightning Country, and Earth Country's daimyo mansions met a similar fate, crumbling into ruins within a mere 24-hour span. As the dust settled, figuratively and quite literally, over the city that bore the brunt of the meteor's impact, an ominous cloud of dust hung persistently in the air. To the astonishment of the ninjas from the respective major villages of these countries, arriving at the scene hours after the meteor's catastrophic strike, the thick shroud of dust showed no signs of settling. Despite the passage of time, it exhibited a stubborn resilience, refusing to dissipate. The unsettling realization dawned that this lingering cloud might persist for days, leaving an indelible mark on the aftermath of destruction. Compounding the tragedy, the core of the city radiated an intense heat, as if a seething core of molten lava resided at its very center. An event of such monumental proportions could not evade global scrutiny, especially when it involved the obliteration of a city housing the daimyo of a nation, further intensified by the grim news of the daimyo's demise. The echoes of this calamity were sure to reverberate across borders, leaving an indelible impact on the collective consciousness of the world. Chapter 145. As the news of unfolding events rippled across the globe, the collective tremor of apprehension shook the very foundations of nations. However, when the enigmatic orchestrator behind the calamities was revealed to be none other than Raijin no Juryoku, the shockwaves deepened, giving way to a pervasive fear that gripped the hearts of people worldwide. The looming specter of a potential fourth ninja world war cast an ominous shadow, particularly among those who, well-versed in Juryoku's storied history, pondered the unsettling possibility of him declaring war on a global scale. The notion that Juryoku might seek to establish the dominance of the Fire Country, thereby reigning supreme over the entire world, became a genuine source of concern, fueled by the acknowledgement of his formidable strength. Despite the palpable anxiety that permeated the air and the passage of numerous days, the awaited declaration of war from the Fire Country remained elusive. Just as confusion and speculation reached a fever pitch among the populace, a formal statement emerged from the Fire Country, shedding light on the motives behind Juryoku's audacious actions. The communication emphatically stated, Juryoku targeted the mansion solely due to the high bounties placed on the head of Jokin. The immediate removal of all such bounties is imperative. Failure to comply will result in the Fire Country declaring war. In the wake of this proclamation, a collective sigh of relief swept through all major villages, with the notable exception of Konoha, which remains steadfastly on high alert, because they know the moody character of Juryoku. Fearing a potential assault by Juryoku, these villages not only embraced the respite but also initiated comprehensive preparations in strict adherence to the Fire Country's directive. The consensus was clear: no one desired war, especially when faced with Juryoku as a formidable adversary. In the heart of Iwabikure, within the formidable confines of the Tsuchikage building, Inoki occupied the main seat, addressing those gathered. I presume you all must have already heard about Juryoku's audacious attack on the daimyo mansions of all the major countries, and the subsequent statement released by the Fire Country. Kitsuchi promptly rose from his seat and proposed, "Yes, and I suggest that we should immediately withdraw the bounty on the head of Jokin before Juryoku becomes incensed and decides to take extreme actions once again." "I don't need anyone's suggestions to withdraw the bounty on Jokin's head. I have already dispatched Kuratsuchi to handle its removal," Inoki assured. At this juncture, an individual in the meeting room stood up and inquired, "Now that the daimyo mansion is in ruins and the daimyo has been slain, do we intend to elect a new daimyo, or will you take over the position?" Another participant joined in, stating, "Yes, and Juryoku has ruthlessly killed most of the nobles who were responsible for managing the Earth Country. I am aware, but assuming the position of the daimyo is not my intention. Instead, we will support a puppet daimyo who will be entirely under our control," declared Inoki, and unanimous agreement resonated throughout the meeting room. Expanding on his strategy, Inoki continued, "Despite the tragic loss of all the nobles and ministers in the Earth Country, there remain some descendants of the daimyo who oversee small cities. We can throw our support behind them for the vacant daimyo throne." "Yes," echoed the consensus from everyone present in the room. "One final directive is to disseminate the impact of Juryoku's ruthless attack on these cities. Though we may be powerless against him, we can tarnish his reputation, painting him as a devil. Let the world recognize that there is yet another individual as ruthless as Uchiha Madara," Inoki urged. All in attendance nodded in agreement, signaling the conclusion of the meeting. In the culmination of these deliberations, the other major villages, namely Kirigakure, Kumogakure, and Sunagakure, arrived at parallel conclusions. Within a matter of days, a collective decision was made to remove all bounties on the head of Jokin. However, amidst this resolution, an additional development unfolded. Juryoku was adorned with a new epithet, Meteor Demon. Despite Juryoku's sparing of most civilians, the destruction of an entire city triggered resentment among the affected populace. The adoption of the name Meteor Demon for Juryoku was further fueled by subtle influences from various major villages. Oblivious to these unfolding events, Juryoku remained immersed in his rigorous training regimen. A hiatus of 1 month had been observed, marked by both injury recovery and a well-deserved period of rest. Living under the relentless imperative to grow stronger since birth, Juryoku now sought a temporary reprieve to rejuvenate both body and mind. With his newly activated template, Juryoku stood poised to continue his cultivation journey. The impending challenge on his horizon was none other than a confrontation with Kaguya. The expansive training area, sprawling across dimensions comparable to a city, conveniently neighbored the city that housed the Jokin mansion. Juryoku sprinted tirelessly, a spherical iron sphere tethered to his back by a chain. Under the influence of 10 times gravity, he executed 10,000 sword swings and subjected himself to various body-stressing exercises. Upon the completion of today's tasks, the familiar sound of the system resonated in Juryoku's ears, signifying progress and ushering in the next phase of his relentless pursuit of strength. Ding! Congratulations! Host on completing today's task and increasing the Lucifero template by 0.03%. Chapter 146, Ding! Congratulations! Host, you have unlocked the new template, the Lucifero template. Now, your EAM mark and Sage mode will be amalgamated into a new form known as Devil mode. You've truly caught me off guard, system, Juryoku remarked, his voice reflecting a hint of surprise. In the subsequent moments, it was as if a dormant mechanism had been triggered within Juryoku's body. Though no visible alterations manifested externally, he keenly felt an internal metamorphosis taking place. Juryoku surrendered to the transformative experience for a brief period. Emerging from this internal recalibration, he now possessed an innate sense that he could assume the form of a devil at any given moment. This ability transcended the conventional process of gathering natural energy and executing a transformation. Instead, it felt instinctual and effortless. It was as though he could seamlessly transition from his existing form to the formidable devil mode with unparalleled ease, akin to the effortless act of switching between different states of being. Without a moment's hesitation, Juryoku swiftly transitioned into devil mode. In this transformative state, his signature black hair seamlessly turned into a resplendent shade of white, while two imposing black horns emerged on each end of his forehead. His eyes underwent a striking transformation, shifting to an intense black with pupils of a captivating golden hue. His once ordinary nails assumed an alluring pure black color, and two magnificent bat-like wings gracefully unfurled on his back. While Juryoku was already considered handsome in his normal form, the infusion of his devilish charm in devil mode rendered him even more irresistibly attractive. In addition to the aesthetic enhancements, Juryoku keenly sensed a substantial augmentation in the defensive capabilities of his body. Eager to put this newfound strength to the test, he unsheathed his sword and, with a measured force, directed a strike towards his own hand. To his astonishment, the defense of his hand proved to be remarkably robust, as the sword left no visible mark, underscoring the formidable resilience bestowed upon him by devil mode. Juryoku's smile widened after executing the powerful swing, a display of strength potent enough to cleave a Jonin-level ninja in half. Yet, he recognized that this was just the initial demonstration. Contemplating the augmentation of his defense through the application of armament haki, he envisioned a heightened level of invincibility. Returning to his normal form, Juryoku gracefully made his way back to the Jokin mansion. Upon arrival, Jokin relayed the news that he had been bestowed with a new moniker, Meteor Demon. Rather than dwelling on this information, Juryoku nonchalantly shook his head, choosing not to concern himself with such trivial matters. He understood that those at the lower rungs of society often express their frustrations through inconsequential means. Maintaining his unwavering determination, Juryoku brushed off the moniker, fully aware that if he single-handedly triumphed over and defeated Kaguya, he would ascend to the status of a world-renowned hero. In this scenario, the once prominent label of Meteor Demon would fade into obscurity, a mere whisper in the echoes of his greater accomplishments. Time continued its relentless march forward, reaching 6 months later. Somewhere in the Fire Country, Asuma found himself kneeling on the ground, blood staining the earth beneath him. Before him stood a man cloaked in black, positioned on a red circle pattern that hinted at some ominous ritual. A black rod was ominously embedded in the man's chest. "Asuma-sensei," shouted Shikamaru, rushing towards Asuma. Meanwhile, Kakuzu decisively defeated the other two ninjas accompanying Asuma's team. As Kakuzu and Haiden prepared to press on and eliminate the remaining Konoha ninjas, two more shinobi from Konoha intervened. After an extended battle, Kakuzu and Haiden, choosing not to prolong the fight, retreated from the scene. "Ino, look, his heartbeat is still there. Maybe we can still save him," Shikamaru urged Ino. In agreement, Ino nodded and promptly initiated the mystical palm technique, striving to sustain Asuma's heartbeat and prevent his untimely demise. Asuma, in a weakened voice, murmured, "You know, and I know, that I don't have much time left. Just let it go." Amidst Ino's tear-filled eyes, she persisted in her efforts to heal Asuma, utilizing the mystical palm technique. Despite Asuma feeling helpless after conveying his sentiments, he recognized that Ino would not relent in her commitment to his well-being. "Choji, consider adopting a healthier diet," advised Asuma, concern evident in his voice. Shifting his focus to Ino, Asuma expressed, "You take care of these two, and I sincerely wish for you and Juryoku to lead a happy life." Ino nodded solemnly, signifying her understanding. Asuma then directed his gaze toward Shikamaru, imparting, "Shikamaru, you possess unparalleled intelligence among us. In the wake of my departure, you shall assume the leadership of this team." Following this, Asuma delved into his interpretation of the Will of Fire, leaving behind words of guidance. "And as a final plea, I have one request for each of you. Please, take care of Kurenai and my unborn child," Asuma implored, his voice resonating with sincerity. With these poignant words, Asuma closed his eyes, marking the closure of his earthly journey. Chapter 147. After all kinds of movements ceased in Asuma's body, and any sign of life vanished, leaving behind a somber stillness, everyone gathered there, had tears streaming down their faces. As Asuma's life ebbed away, the heavens responded with the onset of rain, as if the very world was shedding tears for the irreplaceable loss of Asuma. Upon the heartfelt persuasion and earnest requests from the other ninjas who were present, a significant decision was made, leading Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji to tenderly depart from the scene, cradling Asuma's lifeless form in their arms. The reverberations of Asuma's demise sent shockwaves throughout Konoha, casting a heavy pall of sorrow over the entire village. Kurenai, upon receiving the heart-wrenching news from Shikamaru, found herself not just shocked but utterly shattered by the cruel reality. The collective grief that engulfed Konoha was palpable, a communal mourning for the fallen hero. In the wake of this tragic loss, an elaborate and dignified funeral ceremony was meticulously arranged for Asuma. The ceremony drew the solemn attendance of numerous Jonin ninjas, paying their respects to the departed soul. In recognition of his valor and sacrifice, Asuma was posthumously bestowed with the title befitting a hero, a testament to the indelible mark he left on the hearts and minds of those who knew him. The day that followed the solemn funeral rites of Asuma saw the gathering of significant individuals within the confines of the Hokage office. Contrary to expectations, it wasn't Tsunade, the incumbent Hokage, who initiated the discourse. Rather, it was Jiraiya who spoke up first, expressing his frustration. "Damn it. I had presumed that Akatsuki's attempt to capture Juryoku would be their undoing. After all, Juryoku is someone with an unwavering resolve for revenge, and his retribution tends to be nothing short of exponential. Yet, I never fathomed that Juryoku would adopt a passive stance, almost as if Akatsuki's transgressions meant nothing to him." Kakashi, contributing to the discussion, remarked, "Indeed, this has left me puzzled as well. It's inconsistent with Juryoku's typical behavior. Akatsuki has assailed him twice already, and it's peculiar that he hasn't retaliated. Considering his extraordinary sensory abilities, locating the very base of Akatsuki should be well within his capabilities. Furthermore, his formidable strength could enable him to single-handedly destroy them within a matter of minutes." Tsunade, visibly troubled by this enigma, chimed in, "This has been a persistent source of concern for me too." She paused, turning her attention to Ino, and asked, "Ino, has Juryoku confided in you about his rationale behind abstaining from destroying the Akatsuki? Have there been any insights or explanations shared?" "I don't know the actual reason," Ino began, her voice tinged with uncertainty, "but I did ask him once about why he didn't take swift action to destroy the Akatsuki. At that time, he explained to me that he still has some use for Akatsuki. That's why he isn't in a hurry to annihilate them. To him, Akatsuki is just a slightly larger ant, a threat that can be extinguished at any time, and nothing more than that." "Use? What conceivable purpose could Juryoku have for Akatsuki?" "Akatsuki is nothing more than a ticking time bomb, a peril that poses a significant threat to the entire ninja world," remarked Tsunade, her concern etched across her face. "I do not know," Ino admitted, a note of helplessness in her tone. "It's been more than a month since I last talked to him because currently, he is busy with his training. If Juryoku had dealt with Akatsuki by now, we wouldn't have to live in constant fear that Naruto might get kidnapped today, and Asuma would still be with us," Tsunade declared, her frustration palpable. As she spoke, her clenched fist revealed the depth of her anger and grief following Asuma's tragic demise at the hands of Akatsuki. Ino, upon hearing all this, also fell into a thoughtful silence. Deep within her heart, she couldn't help but ponder that if Juryoku had taken decisive action against the Akatsuki organization, her cherished Asuma-sensei might still be alive today, spared from the malevolent clutches of Kakuzu and Haiden. "Granny Tsunade," Naruto spoke passionately, "we can't always rely on others. Instead of dwelling on what might have been if Juryoku had destroyed the Akatsuki, we must take decisive action to avenge Asuma-sensei's death. Asuma-sensei was also my teacher. He imparted the knowledge of mastering the change in wind chakra nature to me. I am committed to avenging his death." Tsunade, grappling with a sense of helplessness, shook her head. The irreversible nature of Asuma's demise weighed heavily on them, but the prospect of seeking vengeance was still within their grasp. With the solemnity befitting a Hokage, she issued a firm command, immediately dispatched teams to search for the tracks of the immortal duo of Akatsuki, specifically Hainen and Kakuzu. Once their trail is discovered, inform me promptly. I will personally send forth an elite ninja team to hunt down this immortal duo. As Tsunade spoke, everyone in the office nodded in agreement, acknowledging the necessity of swift and resolute action. In that critical moment, Shikamaru stepped forward with unwavering conviction and determination etched on his face. Hokage-sama, please permit me to lead that elite team tasked with hunting down the immortal duo. I am driven to avenge the death of my teacher with my own hands. Grant me the honor of being the captain of this hunting team, he implored, bowing at a 90-degree angle towards Tsunade, a gesture underscoring his profound respect and unwavering commitment to avenging his teacher. Yes, Granny, and please allow me to join that team as well, added Naruto, his voice resonating with conviction and a burning desire for retribution. Chapter 148, Tsunade directed her gaze toward Shikamaru, acknowledging that he stood as the most fitting candidate for the captaincy of the upcoming mission. Not only did he possess the unwavering resolve necessary for seeking revenge, but his intellectual prowess and remarkably high IQ marked him as an exceptionally astute individual. Designating Shikamaru as the captain emerged as the logical and optimal choice. Despite this, Tsunade couldn't entirely dismiss her reservations about entrusting Shikamaru with such a crucial responsibility. Carefully choosing her words, she articulated, "Undoubtedly, you are one of the most qualified candidates to lead this hunting team, and I am inclined to grant you the position of captain. However, there exists a stipulation. Since Asuma's untimely demise, your mental state appears to be in flux. If, upon assessment before the mission, your state of mind is deemed unfit, I cannot allow you to assume the role of captain. It is imperative that you comprehend this condition. To ascertain your readiness, I will consult with your father. Only upon his confirmation of your mental preparedness will I confer upon you the mantle of captaincy for this mission." Upon absorbing this information, Shikamaru responded with a nod, recognizing the paramount importance of maintaining the right state of mind during a mission, particularly when assuming the mantle of a team captain. In such a role, the lives of one's teammates are entrusted to the captain, and the decisions made can profoundly impact their survival. I understand, Hokage-sama. I am committed to ensuring that I am in the right state of mind, Shikamaru assured. Tsunade acknowledged Shikamaru's dedication with a nod before shifting her attention towards Naruto. As for you, Naruto, I cannot permit you to leave the village at this moment. It may be a trap set by Akatsuki to capture you, she cautioned. Granny, you don't need to worry. I am not as weak as I was 6 months ago. Now, I can enter the Five Tails mode without succumbing to my hatred. In this form, even Pervy Sage is not my equal, Naruto confidently defended. Jiraiya, noting Naruto's capabilities, intervened to advocate for Naruto's inclusion in the hunting team. Tsunade, let Naruto join the team. With his strength, Akatsuki won't be able to capture him. Moreover, Naruto won't be alone, he'll be accompanied by a team of elite ninjas, he proposed, emphasizing the collective strength that Naruto and the elite team would bring to the mission. After absorbing Jiraiya's words, Tsunade couldn't help but feel a sense of helplessness as she responded, "Okay, Naruto, you can indeed be a part of the hunting team, but please remember to prioritize your safety." Naruto, with a reassuring pat on his chest, confidently affirmed, "Do not worry, Granny. I am committed to avenging the death of Asuma-sensei." Subsequent to this discussion, the meeting concluded, and everyone, excluding Tsunade and Shizune, exited the Hokage office. The impact of Asuma's death was far-reaching, spreading like wildfire and soon becoming common knowledge throughout the world. The higher-ups of the Fire Country were not only mourning the loss of Asuma but were also incensed at what they perceived as a blatant act of contempt toward their nation. Asuma held the prestigious position of a member of the 12 Guardian Ninja of the Fire Country, and the fact that Kakuzu and Haiden had also taken the life of Juryoku, another esteemed member of the 12 Guardian Ninja, intensified the gravity of the situation. Within the confines of the Jokin mansion, a small yet consequential meeting was underway. Having witnessed Juryoku's formidable strength and acknowledging Jokin as the future wife of Juryoku, the daimyo had already bestowed a significant amount of power upon Jokin. It was officially declared that Jokin would ascend to the throne of daimyo at the appropriate age. The ongoing meeting delved into the topic of Asuma's demise and the strategic considerations on how fire countries show to react. Seated on a chair, one of the ministers voiced his concern. "Jokin, we must take decisive action against these Akatsuki members, or else our reputation will suffer." Echoing this sentiment, another minister chimed in, "Absolutely. We should implore Lord Juryoku to take action and not only eliminate these Akatsuki members but also dismantle the entire Akatsuki organization." The ministers, unanimously supporting this stance, articulated their opinions, and Jokin, maintaining a composed demeanor, absorbed their discussions. Finally, she responded, "I agree that eliminating these Akatsuki members is crucial to assert our majesty. As for the dissolution of the Akatsuki organization, I will convey your arguments to Juryoku. Whether he decides to destroy the Akatsuki organization will be entirely up to him. I won't impose any action upon him." The ministers present in the meeting room nodded in approval, finding Jokin's decision reasonable. They recognized that forcing Juryoku to act against his will was nothing but an act of seeking death. With the meeting adjourned, Jokin gracefully exited the room, and within a few minutes, a sedan was prepared for her departure. Seated in the sedan, Jokin left the Jokin mansion, her destination set for the place where Juryoku regularly engaged in his training sessions. Chapter 149. Finally, Jokin reached the vicinity where Juryoku carried out his rigorous training. As the sedan approached Juryoku's dedicated training grounds, an undeniable sensation of vibrations permeated the air, as if something of considerable magnitude was being dragged. This was accompanied by audible sounds indicating a substantial weight being moved. As they inched closer to Juryoku's training site, the onlookers were astonished to witness a man exerting immense effort to pull a sizable spherical iron boulder, standing twice his height. The scene left a lasting impression, particularly on the guards who were in attendance. At last, the sedan came to a stop at a distance from a marked white line. One of the guards, relatively new to the surroundings, couldn't resist posing a question to his fellow guard: "Why are we stopping here before the white line? Is it not possible for us to proceed even further?" The fellow guard responded with a friendly smile, "Your curiosity is understandable. Being new here, you're still learning the ropes. Just so you know, the area beyond the white line is strictly off-limits for us." "Why?" the guard couldn't help but ask, his confusion evident in his facial expression. "Observe closely the ground beyond the white line. You'll notice it's slightly lower than the ground before the white line," explained the fellow guard. The new guard carefully examined the terrain and, upon noticing the disparity, nodded in agreement, saying, "You're absolutely right. The ground beyond the white line is about 5 fingers lower than the ground before it. And now that you mention it, the surface beyond the white line looks impeccably level, almost as if a massive roller has passed through, meticulously flattening the ground. You've truly impressive observation skills." The primary reason behind this phenomenon is Lord Juryoku's practice sessions in this area. During his training, he deliberately increases the gravity around him to more than 10 times the normal. Consequently, if anyone accidentally crosses the white line while Lord Juryoku is in the midst of his intense training, they face serious risks. If the individual is fortunate and possesses considerable strength, they might only sustain minor injuries. However, for others, the consequences could be severe, even fatal, elucidated the fellow guard. "Thank you for sharing this insight," expressed the new guard. Then, directing his gaze towards Juryoku, the new guard mused, "If Lord Juryoku has the ability to alter the terrain through his training routine, I can't even begin to imagine the extent of his power in an actual combat scenario." As the new guard made this observation, a profound sense of awe and respect for Juryoku's strength was evident on his face. While these guards engaged in conversation, Jokin had already descended from the sedan and approached the white line. In a resounding voice, she announced, "Juryoku, I've come here to meet you." For the next few seconds, the surroundings fell into complete calm, and even Juryoku, who was in the midst of a run, came to a standstill. Finally, Juryoku's voice broke the silence, saying, "Come in." The experienced guards, who had faithfully served Jokin for an extended period, intuited that before summoning Jokin, Juryoku had effectively neutralized the gravitational increase in the area. Upon absorbing Juryoku's words, Jokin confidently crossed the white line, taking purposeful strides in the direction where Juryoku was presently standing. Juryoku skillfully untied the chains and ropes that securely fastened the large spherical iron boulder to his body, revealing a glimpse of the strenuous training he had undertaken. As Jokin finally reached Juryoku, she couldn't help but observe the physical toll the intense regimen had taken on him. She expressed her concern, saying, "You are already immensely powerful, why subject yourself to such rigorous training to become even stronger?" In response, Juryoku explained, "The strength of the upcoming adversaries surpasses anything you can fathom. To ensure the safety of my loved ones, I must attain a level of power that renders these formidable foes pitifully weak in comparison." Persisting with her curiosity, Jokin remarked, "You frequently mention these impending enemies, yet you never specify the nature of the threat. What kind of enemy are you preparing to face?" To emphasize her mild dissatisfaction, she adorned her question with a cute pout. "Sometimes, having too much information only leads to unnecessary tension, so there's no need to worry. When the right time arrives, you will be informed," Juryoku reassured with a calm demeanor. This wasn't the first occasion on which Juryoku chose to keep details about the Akatsuki from Jokin. Two main reasons dictated his discretion. Firstly, he couldn't divulge the origin of this information to anyone, and secondly, he genuinely desired to shield Jokin from undue stress. Jokin could only shake her head in a mix of understanding and disappointment. She realized that if Juryoku was unwilling to share insights into the so-called enemies, he would maintain this silence until he believed the timing to be suitable. Chapter 150, You Don't Usually Come Here. "Is there something of significance that has occurred, prompting you to seek my assistance?" inquired Juryoku. Jokin nodded solemnly and conveyed, "Sarutobi Asuma has met his demise at the hands of the Akatsuki members Kakuzu and Haiden." Upon receiving this information, Juryoku momentarily halted his current activity and contemplatively responded, "I see." The news of Asuma's demise did not catch Juryoku off guard. It was well within the expectations he had gathered from his memory. He knew that Asuma's death occurred 6 to 7 months after Naruto's return to Konoha, and it seemed that the course of events had not deviated much. "You don't appear overly surprised by this," observed Jokin. "There isn't much to be surprised about. It's just that I didn't anticipate the Akatsuki becoming so active so soon," explained Juryoku. In all sincerity, he had believed that Akatsuki would attempt to negotiate some deal with him before proceeding with their plan. Alas, it appears his assumptions were incorrect. Juryoku chose not to disclose to Jokin that, should he have desired, he possessed the capability to rescue Asuma. His foreknowledge of the impending events allowed him to anticipate the course of Asuma's fate. While Juryoku couldn't pinpoint the exact date of Asuma's demise, he had the means to effortlessly track Asuma and his team, intervening to save him if he so wished. However, Juryoku opted not to expend his efforts on rescuing someone whom he considered to be of little worth in his life. Furthermore, there existed an additional rationale for his decision not to save Asuma. Juryoku's memory vividly retains an incident that transpired almost 4 years prior. During that time, he sustained serious injuries and underwent covert treatment by Tsunade at Konoha Hospital. Unfortunately, his location was compromised, leading to a coordinated attack by multiple ninjas. Although these assailants proved ineffectual in causing him harm, owing to the automatic gravity defense enveloping his body, the details of that night remain somewhat elusive. What stands out in his recollection is the palpable sense of Asuma's presence. Asuma had accompanied those ninjas but refrained from entering the hospital. After Juryoku regained his mobility, he undertook a thorough investigation and confirmed that Asuma had indeed leaked his location to Hamura and Koharu. In response, these two individuals had dispatched assassins in pursuit of him. Despite this betrayal, and considering Asuma's role as the teacher of his girlfriend Ino, Juryoku chose to look past this transgression and spared Asuma's life. The decision not to take Asuma's life represented a significant and magnanimous favor extended by Juryoku. Given these circumstances, he had no inclination to squander his valuable training time on the likes of Asuma. "So, did you come here to ask me to seek vengeance for him or something?" queried Juryoku. In response, Joken shook her head and explained, "I didn't come here to request vengeance for Asuma's death. Quite the contrary, I've approached you with a different plea, to implore you to administer retribution to Kakuzu and Haiden. These two Akatsuki members have ruthlessly taken the lives of two former members of the 12 guards of the daimyo. If their actions go unchecked, the reputation of the Fire Country will be irreparably tarnished, a situation I am eager to prevent at all costs." Upon absorbing Joken's words, Juryoku offered a nod, expressing, "I see." A somber expression adorned Joken's face as she posed the question, "So, will you go?" Contemplating the query, Juryoku elucidated, "Had it been concerning someone else, I might not have found the inclination to embark on a journey to Konoha or any other destination. However, Asuma's untimely demise alters the landscape entirely. I recognize that Ino, by now, is likely grappling with thoughts that if I had dealt with the Akatsuki members, her revered teacher would still be among the living. Consequently, I feel compelled to go, to engage with Ino and articulate the motivations behind my decisions." Joken responded, "I see. Your impending journey is bound to be fraught with challenges," accompanied by a chuckle. "Okay, then let's head to the Joken mansion." "I haven't indulged in delicacies for quite some time," remarked Juryoku. Upon hearing his words, Joken nodded. With Joken held securely by her waist, Juryoku ascended into the sky and swiftly departed, leaving the current location behind, eventually arriving at the Joken mansion. Following a satisfying meal and some leisurely time spent with Joken, Juryoku found his mind rejuvenated. Thus, he bid farewell to the Joken mansion. Juryoku, not one to rush, opted for a leisurely stroll. After an extended period of training, he decided to amble through the surroundings, appreciating the beauty of the landscapes along the way. After spending several days in the forest, the team consisting of Shikamaru, Ino, Choji, Kakashi, Naruto, Sakura, and Hyuga Hohito moved swiftly through the terrain. "Hohito, can you spot Kakuzu and Haiden?" inquired Shikamaru. "Yes, I can spot them. They are walking leisurely," replied Hyuga Hohito. "Humph. It seems that they don't take Konoha seriously," remarked Sakura. "You are correct, and this behavior of theirs emanates from their perceived strength," added Kakashi. "We, Inoshikacho, will handle Haiden, and Team 7 will be responsible for dealing with Kakuzu," declared Shikamaru. The team members nodded in agreement upon hearing Shikamaru's words, acknowledging that he had been granted the position of captain for this mission. Finally taking on this leadership role, Shikamaru felt a weight of responsibility on his shoulders, determined to lead the team successfully through the upcoming challenges. That's the end of this tale for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in part 6. Peace.